Listen to me now, don't scroll. Don't ignore this, because this is the moment where I draw the line. You have been under attack in ways even you didn't fully understand. Quiet torment. Emotional collapse behind closed doors. You wore strength like armor, but your spirit was bleeding underneath. They didn't see it, but I did. You smiled in front of them, but I heard the cries that came out of you when the doors were shut. I saw the nights you stared at the ceiling, asking why your heart felt like it was collapsing from the weight of unspoken pain. You didn't have the words, but I understood the language of your soul. You tried to stay calm, tried to survive, tried to push through, but the silent storms were designed to wear you down from the inside. That's how the enemy moves: covert, slow, invisible to everyone but me. But I tell you now, it's over. I am stepping in with finality. No more silent suffering. No more internal agony that eats away at your joy. What was attacking you in the quiet is being exposed in the open. Every invisible thread of fear, every chain of self-doubt, every lie whispered into your mind that you mistook for truth, I'm breaking them now. That silent prison you were trapped in, I'm walking into it as light. And where my light enters, darkness cannot argue. Your tormentor is evicted. Your inner battleground is turning into a sanctuary. You are not just surviving anymore, you're rising. I'm not asking you to keep being strong. I'm commanding your freedom. You want fake peace anymore, I'm giving you the real thing. That inner torment thought it could stay because no one saw it. But I saw it all, and I say it's over. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not forgotten. I am speaking into your life now, louder than your pain, stronger than your fear. And when I speak, chains fall. This is not a suggestion. It is a holy interruption. It is my decree. It's over for everything that tried to destroy you without leaving evidence. You've cried enough behind closed doors. Now watch me open new doors in front of everyone who thought you were finished. Look at me. Pay close attention. I'm not revealing this so you can hurt, I'm exposing it so you can heal. There were words spoken about you that carried poison. They smiled in your face, called you friend, claimed they loved you, but behind closed doors, they used your name like a weapon. They disguised jealousy as concern. They wrapped criticism in fake compliments. They masked betrayal with polite greetings. But I heard every word. I stood in rooms you were never invited into. I watched them gather around tables and speak curses over the very destiny I placed inside of you. They laughed at your hope. They doubted your journey. I prayed for your failure while pretending to applaud your wins. And you felt it, didn't you? You couldn't always prove it, but something in your spirit kept sensing the shift. You questioned your own discernment, blamed yourself for being too sensitive. But now I tell you, you weren't wrong. You weren't imagining it. They were smiling, but their words were swords. And those words were meant to stop you. They tried to curse what I have already declared blessed. But here's the truth. My seal is stronger than their slander. My covenant is louder than their conversations. And today I'm shutting it all down. I'm closing access. I'm disconnecting you from every voice that pretends but secretly poisons. Your season in your life is expired. The masks are falling. The manipulation is crumbling. And you won't have to defend yourself, I'm doing it for you. I will make it clear who was sent and who was sent to sabotage. You won't have to fight back. I will silence every tongue that rose against you in judgment. The trap they set will turn into their testimony of how I protected you. The mockery will become the moment they witness my glory on your life. You were never alone in those rooms where you were attacked without being present. I was standing there, recording every word. And now I say enough. It's over for every fake connection that pretended to care. It's over for those who used your vulnerability as ammunition. You don't owe them another explanation. You don't owe them access to what I'm about to release in your life. I am surrounding you with truth. I am building walls they cannot climb. This next season will not be shared with those who secretly celebrated your pain. I am shielding your path, cleansing your circle and marking you for elevation that no snake can slither into. What they did in the dark has reached my throne, and I, the Lord your defender, have issued this verdict. It's over. You don't have to act anymore. I see through the performance you learned to perfect just to survive. Day after day, you've kept yourself in patterns that did nothing but steal your peace. You called it discipline, but deep inside, it felt like you were dying a little more each time you had to pretend you were fine. Those routines, those toxic repetitions, you didn't even know how you ended up caught in them, but they became your normal. Waking up exhausted in your soul, saying yes when you wanted to scream no, smiling while your chest felt heavy with silence. You tried to make it work, telling yourself, just a little longer. But now I say no more. This cycle ends here. This isn't how I designed you to live. You weren't made to be stuck. You weren't created to be trapped in habits that feed your emptiness but starve your purpose. Every time you chose the same thing expecting a different result, you buried part of your joy deeper. And I watched. I watched you try to fix it by becoming smaller, quieter, more obedient to expectations that had nothing to do with me. I never asked you to shrink for comfort. I never asked you to settle to keep peace with dysfunction. These cycles were created to confuse you, not build you. And they've taken enough from you. Your energy, your creativity, your belief in what's still possible. They wrapped themselves around your daily life so tightly, you stopped noticing you were no longer breathing freely. But I came to call you out of the repetition that dulled your vision, out of the pattern that whispered, "This is just how it is." That lie dies today. I'm removing the scripts you've been reading from just to make others feel secure. I'm tearing out the agreements you made with cycles that kept your wings tied. You've been dancing in circles while thinking you're moving forward. But true progress isn't just activity, it's alignment. And I'm realigning you now. This may be uncomfortable, because I'm pulling you out of what you mastered, but you must understand mastery of a prison is not freedom. Being good at surviving is not the same as truly living. You've learned how to manage dysfunction, but I'm calling you into wholeness. No more of this circular pain disguised as structure. No more waking up with dread and calling it routine. The cycle is over. The charade is over. The false identity formed by repetition is over. I am putting a full stop to what once felt unbreakable. And I don't just mean the external things, I'm reaching into your internal rhythm. The pace of your thoughts. The script of your inner voice. The story you keep telling yourself that starts with, "I guess this is all I'll ever be." No. I'm writing a new chapter now, and it cannot begin with your old survival loop. I'm not asking you to walk in circles anymore. I'm commanding you to walk out of what's draining you, out of what's masking your gifts, out of the illusion that this is all life can be. I'm calling you into clarity, direction, purpose, freedom. You're not stuck, you're just one decision away from surrender. And I'm standing here, extending my hand, saying, "Come, step out of the loop. Walk with me. It's over now." There's something you need to hear right now, because too many times you listened to voices I never sent. You gave weight to words that were not rooted in my truth. You allowed doubt to speak louder than destiny. And now, I must silence what has no right to speak over your life. Those whispers that said you weren't good enough, smart enough, worthy enough, they were never mine. They echoed in your mind during the quietest moments, and they tried to shape how you saw yourself. They showed up after every step of faith you took, trying to convince you that forward wasn't possible. And you, exhausted from trying so hard to believe, started to wonder if they were right. But now I say this: every whisper that declared your failure ends today. I don't care how subtle it sounded, how convincing it felt, or how often it replayed in your thoughts. If it didn't align with my promises, it was a lie. Those voices didn't come to correct you. They came to paralyze you. They weren't helping you stay humble, they were working to keep you hidden. And I've had enough of it. You tolerated the noise for too long. You've allowed the fear-based commentary of broken people and the suggestions of your inner critic to become louder than my spirit within you. It's over now. This is the hour where clarity returns. I'm cleansing the frequency of your mind. You will hear me again clearly, confidently, consistently. No more confusion between my truth and the enemy's distortions. I'm teaching you to discern the difference between conviction that builds and criticism that destroys. I never told you to give up. I never told you to dim your light. I never told you to stay small just to stay safe. And any voice that leads you into despair was never speaking from my throne. The defeat you accepted was rooted in deception. But I'm dismantling every lie, every suggestion, every whisper that positioned itself as authority over your future. Some of those voices came from people you trusted. Some came from memories too painful to face. And some came from the war inside your own heart. But none of them outrank me. And I'm not just exposing the lie, I'm replacing it. Where they said you couldn't, I'm saying, watch me make it happen through you. Where they said it was too late, I'm saying, this is just the beginning. Where they said you'll always be the same, I'm declaring, I'm making all things new. No voice has the final word but mine. And I speak life. I speak freedom. I speak healing. I speak identity. I speak purpose. I speak resurrection. From this moment forward, every internal dialogue that does not reflect my nature is being silenced. I am tuning your heart to my frequency. I am giving you ears to hear what heaven says about you. And let me be clear, heaven is not speaking failure. Heaven is not speaking fear. Heaven is not declaring that you've missed your moment. Heaven is roaring with the sound of resurrection, breakthrough, and legacy. The enemy wanted you to believe you were forgotten. But what you didn't know is that I've been preparing a moment just like this, where I would step in and interrupt everything those voices tried to establish in your soul. So hear me now, I'm not just muting them. I'm erasing their influence. It's over for the whispers of defeat. I am replacing every word with fire and truth. I am rebuilding your confidence in what I said. And I will not allow any voice, internal or external, to talk you out of what I died to give you. I need you to listen, because this one has tried to stay hidden the longest. The fear. It crept in when no one else was watching. It laid beside you in the dark. It whispered when your thoughts refused to rest. It told you to imagine the worst so you wouldn't be surprised. It had you rehearsing defeat long before you stepped into the battle. And over time, it didn't just visit you, it built a residence in your mind. That fear didn't scream. It stayed quiet, almost polite. It didn't shout lies. It whispered what-ifs that sounded logical. But I was never in those thoughts. I never told you to shrink back. I never asked you to prepare for disaster. You confused fear with responsibility, but fear doesn't protect. It imprisons. And that prison has shaped the way you've lived. The choices you avoided. The places you wouldn't step into. The dreams you put on pause. Not because you lacked ability, but because fear made you question everything I placed inside you. But no more. I am entering that battlefield right now. Not the one outside of you, but the one inside your soul. I am walking into your sleepless nights and tearing down every false narrative that made fear your closest companion. I am removing the questions that kept you from resting. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I'm not enough? Those are not your thoughts anymore. I'm reclaiming your mind. I'm restoring peace to your nights. You will sleep again, not just because the room is quiet, but because your spirit is at rest. And voice that always predicted the worst, I'm silencing it. That ache in your chest that came with uncertainty, I'm healing it. That breath you held every time you expected something bad to happen, I'm releasing it. You were never meant to carry this kind of pressure. Fear has stolen too many hours of your life, and I am calling time on it. What you thought was wisdom was really torment. What you called preparation was really panic. But I'm flipping the script. I'm giving you eyes that see through truth, not trauma. I'm giving you courage that doesn't need to shout but simply moves in quiet confidence. You're not going to hide anymore. You're not going to second-guess yourself every time you try to step into joy. That cycle ends here. I'm not just setting you free from fear, I'm teaching you how to recognize its voice so it never tricks you again. The authority that fear held over your mind, your body, your future, it's broken. I am declaring dominion where anxiety once lived. I'm rebuilding the places fear destroyed. I'm opening the doors it tried to keep you from. This is not a suggestion. This is not therapy. This is holy war. And I have won. You don't have to fight this alone anymore. You never had to. I was waiting for you to stop partnering with fear and start trusting my voice again. This is your turning point. This is the moment where your what if turns into even if. Even if storms rise, I am with you. Even if people walk away, I remain. Even if plans change, my purpose will prevail. Fear only wins when it gets you to forget who's standing beside you. But I have never left. I have never backed down. I have never doubted what I placed in you. So now I speak to the fear that has pretended to be your guardian. I strip you of your authority. You will no longer have a say in my child's life. You will not define their steps. You will not dictate their decisions. I am the shepherd, not fear. I am the guide, not doubt. And I say now, with all of heaven as witness, it's over. Let me speak to that part of you that learned how to shrink in the presence of others just to be accepted. I know how many places you walked into with brightness in your soul, only to be met with eyes that resented what I placed in you. I saw the subtle glances, the awkward silences, the way they changed the conversation when you walked in. You weren't wrong to feel it. You weren't imagining the resistance. They didn't want your light, they wanted your silence. You adjusted yourself not because you were weak, but because you were desperate for connection. You turned your volume down so others could feel louder. You made yourself less visible to keep their comfort intact. But in doing that, you started questioning if shining was wrong. You began hiding your fire so no one would feel threatened. But hear me now. I never told you to play small to make others feel big. I never asked you to bury what I ignited inside of you just to avoid jealousy. You've been in places where your worth was measured by how quiet you could be. You've surrounded yourself with people who couldn't celebrate you unless you were struggling. But that era is over. Those environments are being severed. The tables where you had to dim down just to find a seat are not tables I set. You were never meant to blend in, you were made to stand out for my glory. They tried to edit your light, but what I've placed in you was never theirs to manage. You've been misunderstood not because you were wrong, but because you were ahead. You carried light they hadn't encountered. You bore gifts that reminded them of what they ignored in themselves. And so, instead of receiving it, they rejected you. But I did not reject you. I anointed you. I called you. I chose you. And I will no longer allow you to walk into rooms where you have to compromise to stay. From now on, I will send you where your light is not only welcome, it's needed. You will walk into places that recognize what I've placed on you, not resent it. You will connect with hearts that are not intimidated by your calling but inspired by it. No more hiding behind humility that looks like insecurity. No more withholding truth just to avoid reactions. I'm releasing boldness over you, not arrogance, but divine authority. Your presence carries something holy. Your voice carries something healing. You don't need to explain why you shine, it's what I created you to do. They had a chance to honor it, and they chose to resist it. That's not your fault. That's not your burden. It's my business to remove you from what no longer honors your purpose. Stop mourning rooms I am calling you out of. Stop waiting for applause from people who only ever clapped when you were broken. You are walking into a season where your brightness will defend, it will illuminate. I am aligning you with those who won't compete with your light but will reflect it. You were never too much. You were never too intense. You were just placed in the wrong atmosphere. But I'm shifting that now. You are stepping into environments where you won't feel drained for being yourself. You won't question if you're allowed to be fully alive. This is your release from the places that silenced your brilliance. And I speak over your life now. It's over for every space that required your silence for their approval. Your light is rising, and nothing will stop it again. Let's address this now, because I've watched long enough. You extended compassion when others offered cruelty. You forgave when they didn't deserve it. You kept showing up when they stopped answering. You gave second chances when most would have walked away for good. And what did they do with it? They misfeed you. They assumed your softness was weakness. They mistook your patience and permission. They thought that because you stayed quiet, you had no strength. But they were wrong. You weren't weak, you were merciful. You weren't fragile, you were enduring. You weren't powerless, you were choosing peace over petness. And I saw it all. I saw every moment you bit your tongue to avoid conflict. I saw the way you held back your pain just to protect someone else's comfort. I saw you put others first, again and again, even when they never did the same for you. And now I'm stepping in. Because the misjudgment is over. The abuse of your grace is over. The underestimation of your worth is over. They thought they could take from you and return only when it was convenient. They thought they could walk over you and you would still hold the door. But I never asked you to be a doormat, I called you to be a gatekeeper. And now, I'm closing those gates. The ones who only stayed to drain you are being removed. Not because you're bitter, but because I'm setting boundaries for you. This is not revenge. This is protection. I gave them time. I gave them opportunities. I gave them moments to see who you really were. But they chose to misuse the access. They saw the gentleness and assumed you didn't have fire. But the fire is mine, and I am awakening it now. The version of you that was always available to people who were never present for you, that version is no longer leading. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your kindness will remain, but it will be covered in wisdom. They won't get to benefit from the beauty of your heart while dishonoring the value of your presence. I'm teaching you how to walk in love without becoming a landing pad for manipulation. The difference is clear now. And I'm not just changing your posture, I'm changing your positioning. You will no longer be overlooked, underestimated, or used. I am surrounding you with people who understand that kindness is a strength, not a flaw. I'm aligning you with hearts that recognize the cost of the grace you carry. The ones who thought you were easy to take advantage of will now see what happens when I defend you. And no, you're not going to get even. I will handle it. I always do. But you're going to rise, and in that rising, everything they ignored will become undeniable. The same people who walked away without explanation will watch what I do with your obedience. And it won't be to boast, it'll be to show that I was with you the whole time. You are not foolish for being kind. You are not naive for giving grace. But this is where the line is drawn. I'm giving you new strength to say no without guilt. I'm giving you clarity to walk away without confusion. You owe no explanation for choosing peace. You owe no apology for guarding your heart. It's over for those who misread your mercy as a flaw. They were dealing with someone chosen by heaven. And from now on, they'll know your kindness came from divine strength, not weakness. This is the moment where I break the pause. You waited long enough. Not because I was late, but because there were forces working overtime to hinder what I ordained for your life. The waiting wasn't just about timing, it was warfare. What you thought was a delay was actually a battlefield in the unseen realm. You didn't see the opposition, but you felt the weight. Doors that should have opened stayed shut. Prayers that should have been answered felt like they echoed in silence. Opportunities came and vanished before you could even reach them. You wondered if you were the problem. You questioned if I had changed my mind. But hear me now, I never canceled your purpose. I was fighting for it. Every time the enemy tried to stall your progress, I pushed back. Every time discouragement crept in, I planted a seed of hope deep inside you to keep you holding on. You don't realize how close you were to giving up. But I stepped in. I didn't let the delay destroy you. I didn't let the silence define you. I let the pause prepare you. And now I declare it's over. The stagnancy. The constant waiting with no explanation. The sense of running in place while others passed you by. I'm ending the drought. I am accelerating what was slowed down. The time that felt wasted is being redeemed. What took others years will happen for you in moments because you trusted me through the wait. I'm not just moving things, I'm removing blockages. Spiritual blockages. Emotional hesitations. People who slowed you down. Thoughts that question your ability. Habits that kept you occupied but not fruitful. I'm dismantling them all. You will no longer sit in rooms of potential that never turn into reality. I am unlocking what has been held back. And you don't need to force it open, I am turning the key. Don't be surprised when the phone rings. Don't be shocked when the opportunity appears. Don't second guess when favor suddenly finds you. This is the reward for surviving the stall. They didn't see the pressure you were under, but I did. You didn't just wait, you waited with faith. You waited with tears. You waited with questions. But you stayed. And that loyalty to me in the dry seasons is why I'm pouring now. The waiting was never a punishment, it was protection. I was getting rid of what would have destroyed you had I moved it too soon. You didn't miss your moment. You matured into it. And now, the calendar shifts. The clock turns. The silence breaks. This is the season of release. I'm lifting the delay off your life. You'll see momentum where there was once resistance. Acceleration where there was once confusion. Clarity where there was once fog. And peace, real peace, because now you will move knowing I'm the one making the path straight. No more wondering if it's too late. No more comparing your pace to someone else's. No more rehearsing how long it's taken. The wait didn't weaken you, it revealed you. You're not behind. You're exactly where I want you. And what's coming next will make the delay make sense. It's over for the hindrance, for the hesitation, for the hold-ups that tried to convince you nothing would ever change. But I am here, and I'm declaring, the delay has expired. Go forward now, your appointed time has arrived. Let me tell you something now that you suspected for far too long. What you thought was loyalty was actually leeching. Not everyone who stood beside you was standing for you. Some smiled just enough to stay close, not because they cared, but because your brokenness was their comfort. They loved the version of you that always needed saving. They felt important when you were crumbling. And instead of helping you rise, they subtly ensured you stayed low, just low enough to depend on them. But I've been watching closely. Every time you confided in them, hoping for wisdom, and walked away feeling more confused. Every time you opened your heart, only to sense that something was off, not in what they said, but in the spirit behind it. You thought maybe it was your imagination. Maybe you were being too sensitive. But I gave you that discernment. And now I'm confirming it. What they called friendship with actually convenience. They didn't feed your growth, they survived off your struggle. You see, some people only love you as long as you stay beneath them. The moment you start to heal, to dream again, to walk in strength, they get uncomfortable. Because your rising reminds them of everything they refuse to confront in themselves. So instead of celebrating your freedom, they try to pull you back into familiar chains, wrapped in advice, cloaked in concern, hidden behind a forced smile. But I say this now with finality. It's over. The counterfeit connections are being cut. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in obedience. You're not losing friends, you're shedding leeches. You're not isolating, you're being insulated. I'm drawing a line between what was sent to help and what was sent to hold you back. There's no room in your next chapter for those who only showed up when you were weak. I'm surrounding you with those who will love you in wholeness, not just in woundedness. People who see the oil I've placed on your life, not just the cracks you struggled to patch. You won't have to guess their intentions. You won't have to question their loyalty. You won't have to shrink yourself to stay in their presence. I'm creating divine alignment, real connection, unshakable support. People who will lift your arms when you're tired, not use your exhaustion as a chance to control you. You've outgrown their manipulation. You've outlived the season where being needed was more important than being nourished. And now, I'm cutting the cords. You may feel the sting of separation, but I promise you the peace that follows will confirm the decision was divine. This is what protection looks like. This is what clarity feels like. You'll no longer be drained by conversations that once felt like comfort but always left you emptier than before. I'm restoring your ability to recognize who carries your cross versus who only came to watch you stumble under it. No more confusion. No more tolerating disrespect under the disguise of closeness. It's over for every false alliance, every one-sided relationship, every bond that only survived because you kept giving while they kept taking. I am untying you from what was never rooted in love and leading you toward what is. Because true friends don't compete with your healing, they rejoice in it. And those are the ones I'm sending next. I'm speaking into the deepest part of you now, the place where your heart still aches when no one is around. There are connections you never fully let go of. Not because they were healthy, not because they brought you closer to me, but because a part of you hoped that something broken could still be beautiful. You wanted to believe it could work, that they would change, that maybe you were the one meant to fix it. But I never asked you to carry that weight, that tie, that emotional grip, that invisible pull you feel towards someone I never told you to connect with. It's not sacred. It's not divine. It's not destiny. It's a tether to a past that keeps rewriting your future in pain. I watched you compromise your values just to keep that link alive. You changed your language. You silenced your convictions. You dimmed your light. All for someone who never honored the spiritual cost you were paying. And I need you to hear me clearly now that soul tie is not your assignment. That longing you keep feeling is not love, it's bondage. It's a loop that keeps your spirit tied to someone who was only ever supposed to be a lesson, not a lifetime. I know how deep it runs. I know how many memories you replay. I know how you keep wondering if you're just walking away too soon. But ask yourself, do you feel more free when they're close or when you're away? Peace doesn't lie. And I am peace. That restlessness, that spiritual unease, it's me. It's been me, gently tugging on your heart, asking you to release what was never born in my presence. You've confused intensity with intimacy, emotion with eternal purpose. But a connection that pulls you away from me is not a blessing, it's a distraction. And I want you to know, you're not weak for wanting love. You're not broken for craving closeness. But the enemy knows that too, and he often wraps chains in charm. You gave too much of your heart to someone who wasn't equipped to protect it. And now, you're left trying to collect the scattered pieces, hoping that maybe they'll look back. But they won't. And even if they did, it wouldn't bring healing. I want you whole. I want you unchained. I want you free from the constant questioning. That soul tie has kept you stuck in cycles, going back, reaching out, hoping they'll understand. But they were never meant to understand you because they weren't created to walk beside your calling. I'm cutting it now. Not to hurt you, but to heal you. You don't need to revisit what I've already removed. You don't need to keep reopening a door I've closed for your protection. You won't find me in what I never sent. I'm pulling you out of the illusion that you need their validation to feel worthy. I'm reminding you that your identity is not tied to their presence or absence. It's over for the spiritual entanglements that weakened your walk. It's over for the emotional attachments that kept your prayers hostage. It's over for the fantasy of a future I never authored. I'm breaking the chain you couldn't. I'm healing the wound you kept hiding. I'm speaking clarity where confusion used to reign. And I'm doing it now. You don't need another sign. You don't need one more reason. My word is enough. It's time to walk free. Because what I'm bringing into your life next cannot be built on what was never holy to begin with. Let me speak to what you keep blaming yourself for, the doors you didn't walk through. I saw every moment you paused when I nudged you forward. I saw the hesitation that gripped you, not because you lacked desire, but because you didn't believe in your readiness. You overthought, overanalyzed, and waited too long while windows closed that were meant for you. You kept asking me for confirmation, but what you really wanted was certainty without risk. And while you stood there waiting for the fear to leave, the moment passed. I'm not here to shame you for what you didn't do. I'm here to tell you that the grip of hesitation ends today. You've missed some things, yes, but you haven't missed me. And if you still have breath, then I still have plans. But now, I'm addressing the root. That inner voice that keeps making you question if you're qualified. That constant comparison that convinces you someone else could do it better. That habit of procrastinating purpose because you're afraid of being seen and failing in front of others. I'm not just giving you opportunities, I'm giving you courage. What has held you back isn't a lack of calling. It's the illusion that you needed more before you could start. You thought you had to be perfect. You thought you had to have all the answers. You thought you had to wait for everyone's approval. But I never said that. I simply said go. I never asked you to be flawless, I asked you to be faithful. And I'm reminding you now, you're more prepared than you think. The tools are already in your hands. The seed is already in your soil. The doors that looked sealed before will open again, but this time, you must not hesitate. I'm breaking the paralysis of overthinking. I'm silencing the questions that stall your steps. I'm releasing you from the fear of failure because even if you stumble, I'll steady you. You're not doing this alone. I'm walking into every room with you. I'm speaking through your words, moving through your actions, covering you with grace. There will be moments coming quickly, moments you've dreamed of, moments you prayed for, moments you don't feel worthy of. And when they arrive, I don't want you questioning whether they're yours. They are. And this time, you won't stand outside the doorway. You'll walk in boldly, fully aware that I sent you there. No more missed missions. No more paused promises. No more waiting until you feel like it's safe. I'm training you to move when I say move, even if it scares you. The truth is, faith rarely feels comfortable, but it always produces fruit. So let go of the guilt over what you didn't do before, because I'm the redeemer of time. And what seemed lost is not beyond recovery. I'm placing divine moments on your path again. But this time, when they come, you will recognize them. You'll respond. You'll reach. Not with fear, but with fire. You've spent enough seasons letting hesitation speak louder than my voice. Now, it's my voice alone that will guide you. It's over for the indecision that cost you progress. It's over for the waiting that wasn't holy, only fearful. I am restoring your momentum. I'm reigniting your courage. I'm giving you back the time that hesitation stole. And I'm calling you to move, not later, not when you feel more ready, but now. Let me uncover what has lingered beneath your confidence for too long, the residue of deception that convinced you that you were never enough. They didn't have to say it outright. Sometimes it came in the form of subtle comments, backhanded compliments, or the constant moving of goalposts. It was the way they looked at you when you spoke, the tone they used when you tried to dream out loud. They chipped away at your self-worth slowly, so slowly, you didn't realize how much had been taken until you began to doubt the very things I had confirmed within you. I saw how you started measuring your value by what they said, what they thought, how they treated you. You kept adjusting who you were just to avoid the sting of their disapproval. You believed that if you could be perfect, pleasing, compliant, maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see you. But all along, I saw you. I never needed you to prove your worth, because I declared it before you ever took your first breath. And now, I'm dismantling every lie that took root in your soul. I'm pulling up the weeds of false identity that grew from the seeds of their manipulation. You don't need their permission to shine. You don't need their affirmation to walk in purpose. Their labels are being stripped from you. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not average. You are not a mistake. You are mine. And what I've spoken over you is eternal. What they spoke over you was temporary, rooted in their own insecurity. They tried to mold you into something you were never meant to be. They projected their fears, their failures, their limitations, hoping you would carry the same. But I am cutting the cord. I'm separating you from every false image that has been built around your identity. You are not here to fit into their comfort zone. You are here to rise in my calling. And that rise starts with truth. My truth. The kind that doesn't shift with opinions or fade with rejection. I'm resetting the foundation. The cracks formed by their control will be filled with my voice. Every word I speak over you is solid ground, and you will stand on it with confidence again. This is not about revenge, it's about restoration. I'm giving you back the voice they silenced, the boldness they ridiculed, the beauty they overlooked. You don't have to carry their version of you anymore. You're not who they said you were in anger, in jealousy, or in fear. You are who I've called you in grace, in power, and in love. And now, you walk forward not to prove anything to them, but to step fully into everything I created you to be. They no longer get to narrate your story. They no longer get to define your identity. I am writing the script, and it sounds nothing like their lies. It sounds like truth, breathed straight from heaven into your bones. It's over for the manipulation that disguised itself as mentorship. It's over for the judgment that wore the mask of concern. It's over for the control that came dressed as protection. You don't need to keep rehearsing their words in your mind. You don't need to keep doubting what I've made clear. From this point forward, only my truth will shape how you see yourself. And here it is: I chose you. I called you. I equipped you. You are worthy, not because they say so, but because I say so. Let me remove the weight you've been carrying, because not everything heavy is yours to hold. You've blamed yourself for things that were never your fault. You've carried shame like a shadow, not because you failed me, but because others failed you and made you think it was your responsibility to clean up what they broke. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that if you had just done more, said less, tried harder, prayed better, maybe things wouldn't have turned out the way they did. But I was there. I saw the whole story. And I need you to understand this now. You don't have to keep apologizing for being wounded by someone else's sword. You didn't ask for the betrayal. You didn't cause the abandonment. You didn't deserve the blame. And yet, you've worn guilt like a garment, hoping that by punishing yourself, you could fix what went wrong. That's not how healing works. That's not how freedom is born. You can't atone for someone else's brokenness. You cannot redeem what they refuse to acknowledge. And you don't have to be the one who bleeds quietly just to keep the peace. That guilt you carry, it was placed on you by people who didn't want to confront their own wrongs. It was easier to make you feel like the problem than to look in the mirror. But I am your mirror now. And what I see is not a failure, not a burden, not a disappointment. I see a soul who tried to do the right thing with a heart full of love. I see someone who took the blame because they were too kind to let others fall. But the blame ends here. I'm breaking the unspoken agreement you made with shame. I'm tearing up the invisible contract that said you had to suffer silently to prove your value. You don't. Your worth isn't rooted in how much guilt you can endure, it's rooted in the price I already paid to set you free. You've repented for things that didn't require repentance. You've wept over moments I never held against you. You've punished yourself while I was trying to pour grace over your shoulders. And now, I say it with clarity: let it go. Let go of the I should have known better. Let go of the maybe it's all my fault. Let go of the internal courtroom where you're always both the accused and the judge. I'm clearing the charges. I'm dissolving the sentence. I'm declaring freedom over your mind. What you did out of survival does not define who you are in my kingdom. What happened to you in your weakest moment is not the headline of your story. And the voices that keep dragging you backward are not speaking from my throne. You're not meant to live under the weight of what you could have done differently. You're meant to live under the covering of what I already did completely. I'm giving you back your breath. I'm restoring the light in your eyes that guilt tried to dim. I'm replacing the self-blame with self-compassion. And I'm rewriting your inner dialogue with words soaked in mercy. It's over for the shame you were never meant to wear. It's over for the guilt that wrapped itself around your identity and convinced you that pain was your fault. I'm cutting the rope. I'm lifting the burden. And I'm saying it clearly. You are clean. You are forgiven. You are free. Not because you earned it, but because I love you that much. I need to speak to something ancient in you, something that began before you understood its name. There are burdens you've carried that were never born in your own choices. Things you inherited not through blood, but through behavior. Through silence. Through cycles. You were handed unspoken expectations, patterns of fear, layers of heaviness, and somewhere along the way, you confused them with identity. You weren't just trying to survive, you were trying to make sense of a weight that was placed on you by generations who didn't know how to let it go. And so you wore it. You wore their regret like a robe. You wore their pain like it belonged in your bones. You believed the lie that what ran through your family had to run through your future. But I'm stepping in to tell you this, that shame stops with you. You were never created to carry the residue of what they didn't heal. You don't have to keep walking paths they paved in trauma. You don't have to keep repeating sentences spoken over you by wounded voices. Yes, they were hurt. Yes, they didn't know better. Yes, they may have tried. But I am not asking you to carry their unhealed wounds as your inheritance. I'm rewriting the legacy. I'm separating your name from the narrative that tried to claim you. What they did, what they allowed, what they didn't confront, it shaped you, but it doesn't define you. You are not the continuation of their brokenness. You are the interruption. You are the turning point. You are the one I chose to carry something new. And for that to happen, the shame must go. The shame that told you you're too damaged to be used. The shame that whispered your story started in failure. The shame that made you hide your truth just to keep the peace. I never called you to pretend. I never called you to repeat. I called you to rise. And I'm telling you now, you don't owe shame your loyalty anymore. It may have run through your family, but it ends with your surrender. I'm lifting it now, layer by layer, by layer. That shame didn't begin with you, and it won't end with your children. I'm breaking it so your legacy is no longer bound by silence. I'm speaking a better word over your life, a word that unravels every generational weight you were never meant to wear. You are not cursed. You are not contaminated. You are not disqualified. You are chosen. You are covered. You are called. And I don't care how long it's been in your bloodline, my blood speaks louder. I'm cutting the chain. I'm sealing the breach. You won't walk with your head low anymore. You won't filter your worth through their mistakes. You won't feel responsible for fixing what others refuse to face. I'm removing the guilt you couldn't name. I'm cleansing the memories that you carry like scars. And I'm releasing a fresh anointing not built on history, but on healing. This is your moment to walk differently, to think differently, to live from a place of freedom, not inheritance. It's over for the shame that was handed down like tradition. It's over for the whispers that said you'd always be a reflection of where you came from. I'm doing a new thing in you. And shame will not be your companion in the journey I've prepared. I see the exhaustion behind your accomplishments. You've been running, not just from failure but toward a finish line that keeps moving. Every step you took, every effort you gave, wasn't always born from joy. Much of it came from a pressure that told you if you didn't produce, you didn't matter. You were applauded when you delivered, and overlooked when you rested. So you learned to equate your worth with what you could give, do, solve, or carry. That pressure didn't start with me. That constant striving did come from my spirit. You began performing not because you wanted applause, but because you feared abandonment. Somewhere along the way, you learned that love had to be earned, attention had to be chased, and value had to be proven. You weren't allowed to just be, you had to impress, to overachieve, to overextend. You were praised for being strong, but no one asked if you were tired. And even in your silence, Your soul has been begging for permission to just exist without proving itself. So now, listen closely. I never asked you to hustle your way into my arms. You already belong. You don't have to audition for approval. You don't have to perfect your performance to remain in my favor. I didn't choose you because of your resume. I chose you because of your heart. You spent too long being the reliable one, the overcomer, the achiever, hoping someone would finally say, "You've done enough." But I'm saying it now. Not because your work isn't important, but because your worth is not dependent on it. You are loved when you are still. You are seen when you are not producing. You are valuable when your hands are empty. And I'm calling you out of the prison of pressure. I'm inviting you to breathe again. No more pretending. No more pretending to be okay when your heart is weary. No more hiding fatigue behind a forced smile. I don't just want your excellence, I want your honesty. I want the version of you that doesn't have all the answers. I want the raw, unfiltered, unpolished you. The one that wonders if it's safe to stop striving. The one that asks, will I still be wanted if I'm not always giving? My answer is yes. Unequivocally, eternally yes. Because I didn't fall in love with your performance. I fell in love with your being. You were never meant to be a machine for other people's expectations. You were meant to walk with me, breathe with me, rest in me. You don't need to keep rushing just to feel relevant. You don't need to keep serving just to avoid silence. I know you. I know your motives. I know the pressure you've placed on yourself. And I'm lifting it now. One by one, I'm removing the weights. The need to prove. The fear of slowing down. The lies that told you your identity is tied to your output. It's time to come home, not just to me, but to your true self. The self that isn't exhausted by applause or paralyzed by expectation. The self that was created to move at my pace, not the world's. It's over for the pressure to perform in order to be loved. It's over for the burden that made you earn what I gave freely. I am not calling you to perform. I am calling you to rest in who I've already declared you to be, mine. Let me uncover what had been hidden from your eyes but never from mine. There were schemes formed behind your back. Conversations you were never invited into. Plots designed not to challenge you, but to break you. They never spoke it to your face, but their silence was loud. Their smiles were rehearsed, but their hearts were planning your fall. They called it concern, but it was sabotage. They disguised it as advice, but it was laced with resentment. They thought you didn't see it. And truthfully, you didn't, but I did. I stood in every secret place where your name was twisted. I watched them plant seeds of confusion in the minds of others to shift the story. I saw every strategy designed to discredit you, delay you, and disturb your purpose. But more than that, I stood still and let them show their true intentions. Not to punish you, but to protect you from ever relying on what was never real. They underestimated who you belonged to. They assumed because I was silent, I was absent. But I am never absent. I was waiting for the perfect moment to reveal not just their plan, but my power. And that moment is now. No longer will you be surrounded by counterfeit loyalty. No longer will you second-guess yourself because of carefully crafted manipulation. No longer will you carry wounds that came from people who swore they were for you. I am exposing every hidden agenda. Not to embarrass them, but to release you. You don't have to fight back. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to prove what I'm already about to make evident. Your defense isn't found in retaliation, it's found in me. What they meant for harm, I am turning into your breakthrough. The betrayal will become a bridge. The attack will become the testimony. I am raising you right in front of those who tried to bury you. I'm blessing you in the presence of your accusers, not to humiliate them, but to make it undeniable that you are mine. Let them whisper. Let them scheme. Let them gather if they wish. But know this: no weapon formed against you will prosper, and no life form about you will stand. I am tearing down every false narrative. I am silencing every slanderous voice. I am dismantling every plan built without my permission. The traps they set will catch only their own pride. You are not called to live in fear of unseen enemies. You are called to walk in boldness, knowing the armies of heaven surround you. I'm not just removing threats, I'm restoring your peace. I'm taking back the nights you lost sleep. I'm healing the parts of you that flinched every time you sensed betrayal. This season is not about revenge, it's about revelation. I'm revealing what was hidden. I'm revealing what was protected. I'm revealing who I've always been, your defender, your shield, your covering. So walk upright. Lift your head. The hands that were building traps will now witness the table I set for you. Not because of who they are, but because of who I am. It's over for the ambushes planned in secret. It's over for the arrows fired in silence. I've seen it all, and now I say it plainly. I will not allow my child to be touched without consequence. Vengeance is mine, but vindication is yours. Let me remind you who has the final say over who you are, because too many voices tried to define you without ever asking me. They labeled you according to their limited perspective. They decided who you were based on moments, not your full story. They tried to box you into titles that made them feel safer, more superior, or more in control. Some called you too much. Others called you not enough. Some used your past to limit your future. Others took your mistakes and made them your identity. They spoke words over you that didn't reflect truth. They reflected their own confusion, insecurity, and broken understanding. And somewhere in the mix of their voices, your own voice got quieter. You started seeing yourself through the distorted lens of their opinions. You questioned your own value because their words had weight in your heart. But I'm speaking now to shatter every false label. I'm breaking every unauthorized identity that was stamped on your spirit. I'm ripping off every name tag that didn't come from heaven. You were never meant to live according to their projections. I created you with intentional design. And no one, not family, not friends, not leaders, not enemies, has the authority to alter what I've authored. Their opinions may have been loud, but they weren't accurate. Their assumptions may have echoed, but they weren't eternal. I alone determine who you are. And here's who you are: redeemed, chosen, whole, anointed, seen, significant, deeply loved, and irreplaceably mine. That is not just a statement, it is your origin. I didn't begin shaping you the day they started noticing you. I formed you long before they had words. I knew every gift you would carry, every struggle you'd overcome, every victory that would arise from the ashes they tried to bury you in. And I never changed my mind about you. Even when you forgot who you were, I still saw you through the lens of destiny. I still whispered your true name in moments you felt unworthy to carry it. I was there when they mislabeled you. I was there when they underestimated you. I was there when they tried to erase parts of you to make themselves feel more powerful. But I have never been moved by false narratives. I'm restoring what was distorted. I'm calling forth the original you, the one they tried to suppress. The one that makes no apologies for shining. The one that walks with clarity, no longer confused by conflicting voices. From now on, your identity will not be shaped by history, by reputation, or by rejection. It will be shaped by revelation, what I reveal to you about you. You are more than the chapters they chose to remember. You are more than the failures they wouldn't let you outgrow. And you are certainly more than the judgments that were never rooted in love. So don't look back. Don't waste another minute trying to convince people who were never called to see you. I will surround you with those who recognize the truth of who you are, not because of your performance, but because they see me in you. You don't need to reintroduce yourself to those who misnamed you. You just need to walk in the identity I've already confirmed. It's over for the rewriting of your story by those who never knew how it began. It's over for the voices that assign you roles I never wrote. I am reclaiming the pen. I am restoring the name. And I'm calling you forward not as who they said you were, but as who I've always known you to be. I was there when no one else noticed. Every tear that soaked your pillow. Every sigh you released when you thought no one could hear. Every time your chest tightened with pain too deep for words. You weren't just sad, you were carrying sorrow in silence, and it almost convinced you that no one cared. But I cared, I never turned my face away. I never left you in the shadows of your grief. While others were sleeping, scrolling, living their lives, I was leaning in, holding the ache that no one else could name. You've gone through seasons where your presence felt invisible, even to those closest to you. You gave love, and it was barely returned. You showed up for others, and no one showed up for you. You kept smiling in public, but your heart was aching in private. And the worst part, you started believing the silence meant abandonment. You assumed that since no one reached out, maybe you weren't worth reaching for. But hear me now, you were never overlooked by heaven. While you were alone in your room, I was sitting beside you. When your voice cracked under the weight of unspeakable emotions, I was the one catching every word between the sobs. I counted your tears not as signs of weakness, but as seeds of a breakthrough. You didn't cry in vain. You weren't broken for no reason. I was using the silence to strengthen the roots of your spirit. You thought you were being ignored, but I was rebuilding you in a sacred stillness. And now, I'm wiping the last tear that came from that chapter. I'm stepping into the silence and speaking comfort where pain used to echo. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not invisible. You are intimately known, deeply loved, and carefully held. I'm restoring what isolation tried to steal. Your joy will no longer be postponed. Your emotions will no longer be buried to make others comfortable. I'm giving you a voice again, not just to speak, but to sing, to declare, to praise, from a place of healing. The loneliness that wrapped itself around you like a cold blanket, I'm tearing it off now. I'm filling the empty spaces, not with distractions, but with my presence. You won't need to hide anymore. You won't need to be strong just to survive. You can collapse into me, and I will carry what's too heavy for your heart. I'm replacing isolation with intimacy, not with crowds, not with noise, but with the kind of nearness that only I can give. You don't have to pretend anymore. I see you exactly as you are, and I call you mine. It's over for the silent nights of sorrow. It's over for the feeling of being emotionally stranded while the world kept turning. I'm returning warmth to the coldest places in your heart. I'm surrounding you with people who don't just notice your presence, but cherish it. I'm giving you back what loneliness tried to kill, your trust in being truly seen, truly known, and truly loved. I'm turning your private tears into public testimonies. And I'm declaring right now, never again will you believe you are alone. Because I am here, and I have always been. Now is the time to expose what you were never meant to normalize. You've been on the receiving end of behavior that called itself love but acted nothing like it. They said they cared, but it always came with conditions. They claimed they supported you, but only when you followed their script. They used affection like a weapon, giving it when you obeyed, withdrawing it when you dared to think differently. That wasn't love. That was control. It came dressed in promises but delivered pressure. It smiled at you, but behind that smile were strings. And every time you tried to breathe, those strings pulled tighter. You started changing not because you wanted to grow, but because you were afraid. Afraid of disappointing them. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of being left again. So you adjusted. You filtered. You became smaller to keep their approval, even though it cost you pieces of yourself. The version of love didn't come from me. I don't demand that you sacrifice your voice to stay connected. I don't condition my affection on your compliance. I don't love you only when you fit someone else's comfort zone. I love you completely. Constantly. Without manipulation. And now, I'm rescuing you from the falsehoods that kept you tied to toxic affection. I'm opening your eyes to see the difference between love that liberates and love that limits. I'm restoring your ability to discern between influence and intimidation. You never deserved to be loved like a puppet, moved when it suited them, silenced when it didn't. You were created to be loved in freedom, not fear. Real love doesn't twist truth to win arguments. Real love doesn't guilt you into staying. Real love doesn't punish you with silence. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're too much and not enough at the same time. And what you called love, what you tolerated because you were loyal, was really a performance for their comfort. That show is over. You no longer have to entertain manipulation disguised as care. I'm giving you permission to walk away without shame. You're not ungrateful for setting boundaries. You're not rebellious for protecting your peace. You're not cold for wanting something real. I never asked you to stay bound in relationships where only one heart was doing all the bending. I'm severing the emotional contracts that kept you tied to performance-based love. I'm replacing it with something pure, something true, starting with my love. My love never uses you to feed its ego. My love never disappears when you fail. My love doesn't require you to compromise your identity to keep the connection. My love heals, restores, rebuilds. And from this point forward, you will recognize the difference. I'm realigning your relationships. I'm revealing the truth you were too afraid to say aloud. I'm reminding you that love isn't proven by how much you can endure, it's revealed in how safe your soul feels when it's seen. I am creating space around you for relationships that don't require pretending, for conversations that don't carry hidden agendas, for closeness that honors who you are, not who they want to mold you into. It's over for the emotional puppeteering. It's over for the subtle demands. It's over for the love that left you anxious instead of anchored. I'm healing the parts of you that questioned whether real love was even possible. And I'm telling you now it is. And it begins with me. Let me show you what love was always meant to look like. Honest, holy, and whole. Let me speak to the weight you've carried in secret, because I know what it feels like to be dismissed, doubted, and discredited. You've walked through things that would have shattered others. But because you kept standing, they assumed it wasn't serious. Because you wore strength so well, they never asked if you were suffering. And when you finally opened up, when you finally whispered the truth, you were met with blank stares, careless replies, or worse, blame. They minimized what was monumental. They questioned your pain. They labeled your struggle as overreaction, your honesty as exaggeration. And so, you stopped explaining. You stopped trying to make them see. You buried the battle and chose silence, not because you were healed, but because you were tired of defending your reality. I saw it all. Every breakdown behind closed doors. Every invisible wound. Every time you whispered, "God, do they even see what I'm going through?" I saw it. I didn't just observe it, I entered it with you. I stood with you in the invisible fire. And today, I want you to hear this clearly. You were never weak for breaking under pressure. You were never dramatic for asking to be seen. Your pain was real. Your exhaustion was valid. Your tears were not signs of failure, they were signs of battle. And no one may have fully believed your story, but I knew every chapter. I know how hard you had to fight just to feel normal. I know how much energy it took to get through days when your soul was begging for rest. I know how it felt to be surrounded by people who thought you were fine because they never looked deep enough. And I'm healing that now. I'm restoring your right to speak your truth without apology. I'm lifting the shame that grew out of their unbelief. You don't have to keep suffering in silence just because they didn't understand the language of your pain. I understand. I always have. And now, I'm defending you not with noise, but with breakthrough. What they didn't believe, I will confirm. What they didn't see, I will bring to light. Not for revenge, but for restoration. You will no longer feel invisible in the place you once felt most dismissed. I'm giving you a voice again. One that no longer trembles when it speaks truth. One that no longer waits for permission to be honest. I'm sending you people who listen not to respond, but to understand. People who won't require proof to validate your story. People who see you without needing an explanation. You've been the strong one for too long. You've covered up your wounds with silence. But I'm removing the muzzle. Your healing is not dependent on their acknowledgement, it's rooted in my affirmation. And I affirm you. I affirm your strength. I affirm your tears. I affirm your healing. It's over for the battles that robbed you of your voice. It's over for the inner wars you fought while appearing composed. It's over for the nights you cried quietly just to protect others from your truth. I'm declaring peace over every part of you that's still limping from battles no one knew you fought. I'm honoring what they overlooked. And I'm saying now I believe you. I see you. And I'm healing you completely. You've carried everyone else while secretly wondering if anyone would ever carry you. You became the one others leaned on. The one who held it all together. The one they came to for answers, comfort, reassurance. You gave strength you didn't always have. You stood tall even when your knees were shaking. You wiped your own tears in the dark, only to show up for others in the light. And over time, you became a fortress for everyone else while your own soul started to crack behind the walls. But no one asked how you were really doing. They assumed you'd be fine, because you always are. They believed you didn't need help, because you never asked for it. And you, out of habit, out of survival, kept saying, "I'm okay," when what you really meant was, "I'm exhausted." But I saw through every "I'm fine." I saw the heaviness you carried behind your smile. I saw the moments where you collapsed on the inside while the world applauded your strength on the outside. And now, I'm stepping in to break that illusion. Because I never created you to carry what only I can hold. You're not my replacement. You're not required to be unshakable. You're allowed to need rest. You're allowed to say, "I don't have it all together." You're allowed to be human. I didn't design you to be the hero of everyone else's story while silently becoming a stranger to your own healing. You thought staying strong meant never showing weakness, but real strength is found in surrender. And knowing when to fall into my arms. In admitting, "I need help," and trusting that I'm already reaching out. You've been carrying burdens that were never yours. Fixing things I never asked you to fix. Holding up others while wondering if anyone would ever hold you. So here's what I want you to know: I'm holding you now. You don't have to keep pretending. You don't have to earn the right to be comforted. You don't have to apologize for being tired. I'm lifting the pressure off your shoulders. I'm taking the weight you've hidden so well. I'm giving you permission to just be without performing, without pretending. You're not weak for being weary. You're not less faithful for needing space to breathe. And you are not alone. I'm sending help, not just divine strength, but people who pour back into you without demanding a performance. I'm surrounding you with those who don't just need you, they see you. And they honor the cost of your compassion. You won't have to carry this alone anymore. The days of emotional isolation are ending. The year of silent burnout is finished. It's over for the expectation that you must always be the strong one. I'm reminding you that you're not the savior I am. I'm the one who holds all things together, including you. So rest, my child. Lay it down. Let go of the burden to be everything for everyone. You are enough whether you're leading or lying still. Whether you're speaking or silent. Whether you're pouring out or just breathing in. I got you now. And I'm not letting go. Let's talk about the moments you gave away parts of yourself just to be accepted. You didn't do it all at once. It happened slowly, small decisions, quiet sacrifices, subtle shifts. You adjusted your tone so they wouldn't be offended. You swallowed your convictions to avoid conflict. You said yes when you meant no, not because you agreed, but because you were afraid of being left out, left behind, or labeled as difficult. And in doing so, you traded truth for comfort. You hid what made you radiant just to stay within the boundaries of what others could handle. Piece by piece, your fire dimmed not because you lost it, but because you tucked it away for the sake of harmony that never felt holy. And I watched. I watched as you silenced your spirit in places where your voice was needed. I watched as you shrank back so others wouldn't feel small. I watched as you suppressed dreams, avoided purpose, and wore masks, all to keep the peace in rooms that were never designed for your authenticity. And now, I'm calling you back. I'm calling you out of every agreement you made in fear, out of every version of yourself you became to stay safe, out of every false role you played to maintain approval. You were never created to blend in, you were born to carry divine distinction. What they called stubborn was actually sacred. What they labeled too bold was my breath in you. What they couldn't receive was what I anointed. You don't have to dilute your essence anymore. You don't have to apologize for being fully alive in me. That false peace, the kind you kept by avoiding truth, is being replaced by real peace. Not the kind that requires silence, but the kind that flows from alignment. I'm aligning you with who you truly are. The you that doesn't compromise righteousness to avoid rejection. The you that doesn't tiptoe around truth to keep false unity. The you that doesn't sacrifice passion to fit into mediocre patterns. I'm awakening the courage that religion tried to tame. I'm reigniting the clarity that culture tried to cloud. You will no longer betray yourself to belong. Because what I'm doing in you now requires your full self, your full voice, your full obedience, your full fire. I am calling forth the identity you tucked away, the boldness you buried, the truth you silenced, not to create conflict, but to reveal clarity. And I'm showing you this. If you have to lose yourself to stay, then it's not where I've placed you. Real connection doesn't demand compromise. Real alignment doesn't require performance. You don't have to contort to be called. You don't have to edit to be accepted. I'm surrounding you now with places that celebrate your purity, not punish it. I'm sending people who won't shrink from your strength, but will rise beside it. You won't have to wear masks anymore. You won't have to trade truth for survival. It's over for the silent compromises that blurred your identity. I'm restoring the full picture now. I'm calling you to walk in the boldness of who I made you to be, not in fragments, not in fear, but in fullness. You are free to be exactly who I designed. No edits, no apology, just glory. Let me speak to the part of you that keeps going back, not because it's good for you, but because it's familiar. I know how hard it is to walk away from what once made you feel needed, even if it also made you feel broken. You did return to the pain because you liked it. You returned because you remembered the comfort it once gave, before it turned into chaos. You hoped this time would be different. You thought maybe if you tried harder, said the right words, forgave again, or loved them just enough, the cycle would end. But it didn't. It repeated. And every time it did, it stole a little more of your joy, a little more of your strength, and a little more of your identity. You walked back into the same places expecting healing, but found yourself holding the same wounds you were trying to escape. And you've wondered, what's wrong with me? You've questioned why you keep circling the same mountain, praying for freedom but living in familiar patterns that contradict what you desire. Let me tell you, there is nothing wrong with your heart. Your heart was just never meant to live in captivity. You weren't created for survival-based loyalty. You weren't designed to settle for relationships, environments, or habits that keep you small, stuck, or scared. You were made to grow. And growth always exposes what comfort tried to hide. I'm stepping into the cycle now. The pattern that started years ago, maybe in childhood, maybe through heartbreak, maybe through a moment of loss you've never fully grieved. I see it. I'm not condemning you for returning. I'm loving you out of it. Because this time, you won't just walk away, you'll be released. You won't need willpower to break the pattern. You'll have clarity. I'm opening your eyes to what's been keeping you tied to what no longer feeds you. That place, that relationship, that behavior, it gave you something once. But now it's costing too much. And I never asked you to pay for your peace with pieces of yourself. You've tried to heal within the same environment that broke you. You've tried to be the light in places that were committed to staying dark. But you can't build the future I've shown you with the chains of the past still wrapped around your ankles. So I'm cutting them now. The emotional entanglement, the false hope, the inner vow that said, if I leave, I'll lose everything. No, you won't lose. You'll gain. You'll gain yourself. You'll gain your joy. You'll gain your voice. You'll gain being again. And yes, leaving the cycle might feel like loss at first. But what you're really leaving is the illusion that brokenness was your only option. I have so much more for you. But you cannot carry old patterns into new places. It's over for the loops that looked like love but lived like bondage. It's over for the repetitions that disguise themselves as destiny. I am resetting your rhythm now. You're not going back this time. You're not revisiting pain and calling it purpose. You're moving forward healed, whole, and held. And I'll walk with you every step out of the cycle and into the life I've always prepared for you. Let me lift what's been sitting on your chest for far too long because you were never meant to hold this. You've been walking through life carrying burdens that didn't originate from your own choices. Some of them came from people who depended on you without caring for you. Others were inherited through expectations, obligations, or unspoken roles you never agreed to take. Somewhere along the way, you became the one who carried everything, responsibilities that belonged to others, emotions they projected onto you, the weight of keeping things together when everything was falling apart. You did it because you cared, because you thought you were supposed to, because the thought of letting someone down felt heavier than the pressure itself. But it began to crush your joy. It started to stifle your peace. You began to confuse endurance with calling, pressure with purpose, exhaustion with faithfulness. And that's where the heaviness crept in, not just in your body, but in your soul. It's the kind of tired that sleep can't fix, the kind of ache that silence can't quiet. You've carried the pain of others, the secrets of your past, the demands of your present, and you've convinced yourself it's normal. But I never asked you to live this way. I didn't call you to be everyone's lifeline while neglecting your own breath. I didn't place you in the world to be buried beneath burdens I never assigned. I called you to walk in freedom. And freedom begins when you stop carrying what doesn't belong to you. You're not responsible for healing what others refuse to confront. You're not obligated to hold together environments that drain your spirit. You're not expected to carry emotional weight that others will own. I see how heavy it's become. I see the moments when you smile on the outside but feel like you're suffocating inside. I see the tears that fall quietly when no one's around, the sighs that escape your chest without words, the way your body tenses even in rest. That's not peace. That's pressure. And I'm removing it now. I'm not just calling you out of heaviness, I'm calling you back to wholeness. I'm teaching you how to release. Not in guilt, not in fear, but in trust. Trust that I can carry what you can. Trust that saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. Trust that your worth isn't measured by how much weight you can hold, but by how much of yourself you're willing to protect. You don't have to be the hero in every story. You don't have to be the strong one in every crisis. Sometimes obedience looks like stepping back so I can step in. Sometimes faith looks like letting go. So release it now. Release the role that wore you down. Release the control that never gave you peace. Release the guilt that kept you from setting boundaries. I am your strength. I am your balance. I am your shelter. I never told you to carry the world, I told you to walk with me. And when you walk with me, you walk lighter. I carry the weight that was never yours to begin with. Let me do that now. Hand it over not just in prayer, but in practice. Not just with your words, but with your decisions. It's over for the burdens that kept you bent when I called you to stand. It's over for the heaviness that disguised itself as love, loyalty, or maturity. You are free now. And your freedom will feel lighter, because I am lifting the load. Let's confront the conflict that has silently shaped how you see yourself. There's been a quiet tension within you for years between the truth I've planted in you and the identity others projected onto you. You've walked through seasons where your spirit whispered one thing, but the voices around you insisted on another. You were told to stay quiet when your heart was made to speak. You were expected to follow paths that didn't align with your calling. You were pressured to adopt a version of yourself that looked acceptable on the outside but left you aching on the inside. That's not peace. It's performance. And I never created you to perform for love, value, or belonging. I created you to live fully from the truth I placed inside you, unashamed, undiluted, and completely free. You've been torn between your truth and their comfort. Every time you took a step toward authenticity, you felt the pull of old expectations. Every time you tried to express what was really in your heart, the fear of being misunderstood held your voice hostage. And you've wondered, is it safer to just stay silent? But silence has a price when it costs you your identity. It may keep the peace with others, but it breaks the peace within yourself. I see the weight that comes from trying to be all things to all people while secretly feeling like none of it fits. That pressure has stolen moments from you, moments where you could have been fully alive, fully seen, fully you. But I'm stopping that now. I'm calling an end to the war between the truth you know and the false self you've been pressured to maintain. You don't need to wrestle between the real you and the version others are more comfortable with. You're not rebellious for growing. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You're not wrong for shedding labels that don't align with your soul. You're becoming who I always designed you to be, no longer living under borrowed identities, but walking in divine clarity. You are not who they assumed. You are not who their opinions tried to shape. You are not stuck in the mold they formed from fear. You are called, crafted, and covered by me. And I'm giving you permission to align with that truth without hesitation. You don't need approval to be authentic. You don't need a committee to confirm your calling. I've already spoken over you, and what I've said outweighs what they've assumed. This is your time to reconcile with yourself, to stand in your skin and say, this is who I am, and I no longer apologize for it. No more editing your voice to fit into rooms not built for your truth. No more shrinking to protect the comfort of those who never made space for your spirit. You were not made to live in fragments. I'm calling all of you, your voice, your presence, your heart, your truth back into alignment. You no longer have to live a split life. The version of you that follows me is the truest one. That's the identity I died to restore. That's the self I'm blessing, anointing, and sending forward. It's over for the inner war that made you question whether your true self was too much for the world. It's over for the confusion that blurred the lines between pleasing people and obeying me. You know who you are now. You've always known. And I'm telling you without hesitation, walk in it. Boldly. Freely. Apologetically. Because the real you is the one I've been waiting to reveal to the world. Let's talk about the shadow you've lived with for far too long, the fear that joy is temporary and peace is fragile. I see how even in your brightest moments, you brace for impact. You smile, but beneath that smile is hesitation. A quiet panic that says, don't get too comfortable, something always goes wrong. That fear didn't come from me. It came from trauma, from patterns, from moments in your past where breakthrough was followed by heartbreak, where laughter was silenced by loss, where hope was interrupted by unexpected pain. You learned to flinch before the fall ever came. You learned to celebrate with caution. And in doing so, joy became something you endured, not embraced. But I never intended for you to live that way. I am not the God of temporary relief, I am the God of lasting restoration. What I give is not bait. My blessings don't come with traps. I don't lift you up just to drop you later. That's not my character. That's not my nature. That's not my voice. You've been carrying fear as a shield, expecting it to protect you from future hurt, but all it's done is rob you of present joy. You can't fully enjoy what I give when your heart is always preparing for it to be taken away. And now, I'm calling an end to that fear-based mindset. You don't have to wait for the catch. There is no hidden clause in my goodness. There is no fine print in my favor. When I bless you because I love you. When I open a door, I open it because it's time. When I pour peace into your soul, it's not a test, it's a taste of what I created you for. And I want you to live in it, not tiptoe through it, not apologize for it, not prepare to lose it. I want you to dwell in joy, in freedom, in laughter that doesn't come with an expiration date. I know why you built those walls. I know the moments that made you say, This won't last. I know the grief that followed the good before. But this season is different. Because this one is built on healing, not on cycles. This one is rooted in trust, not terror. I'm rebuilding your faith in goodness. I'm showing you that joy can be sustained, that peace can multiply, that favor isn't a tease, it's a promise. I'm shifting your belief system. I'm teaching your heart to receive without bracing, to rest without watching the door, to laugh without scanning the horizon for bad news. I want you to breathe again, not shallow and suspicious, but deep and trusting. When I say, this is your time, I mean it. When I pour out blessings, I don't follow it with punishment. You're not on a roller coaster. You're not at the mercy of constant highs and crushing lows. I'm settling you now, body, soul, and spirit. And I'm asking you to receive this peace as your new normal, not a rare exception. Let go of the fear that joy means trouble is coming. Let go of the instinct to sabotage blessings before they can settle. Let go of the emotional reflex that distrusts rest. You don't have to rehearse worst-case scenarios anymore. You don't have to mentally prepare for loss when I'm giving you fullness. It's over for the fear that made you suspicious of every good thing. It's over for the belief that joy must be followed by pain. I'm shifting your rhythm. You're no longer waiting for something to go wrong. You're walking in what is finally right. This peace is yours. This joy is secure. This blessing has no trap attached. And yes, it's okay to trust it. Because this time, it's not a moment, it's a move of me. You've lived under a quiet pressure, the kind that never shouted but always lingered. The kind that told you, if you make a mistake, everything will fall apart. The kind that made you feel like failure wasn't an option, and perfection was the only way to stay safe. You've worn responsibility like armor, bracing for every outcome, overthinking every word, second-guessing every decision, not because you lack wisdom, but because somewhere deep inside, you believed that your worth was tied to performance. You learned early on that approval was given when you excelled, that praise came when you pleased, that love felt more certain when you performed well. And so you became the one who always had the answers, the one who fixed things, the one who didn't make waves, the one who kept the peace even when it cost you yours. But I want to speak directly to that version of you, the one who still feels like one wrong move will undo everything. You were never meant to carry that pressure. Your value isn't fragile. Your identity isn't held together by perfect execution. I never based my love for you on how flawlessly you could perform. I based it on who you are, my child. You've tried to be everything for everyone, hoping that if you were careful enough, excellent enough, kind enough, prepared enough, then maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't be rejected. But that mindset has exhausted you. Because no matter how hard you try, perfection is a moving target. And trying to chase it has drained your joy, stolen your spontaneity, and made peace feel just out of reach. I want to set you free from that today. You don't have to be perfect to be precious to me. You don't have to get it all right to be completely loved. I'm not impressed by your flawless plans, I'm drawn to your honest heart. You see, I never asked you to be unbreakable. I asked you to be real. And being real means sometimes missing the mark, sometimes stumbling, sometimes learning as you go. I don't see those moments as failures, I see them as part of your formation. I see your growth, not your glitches. I see your courage, not your calculations. I see your willingness to try, even when fear tells you not to. And that your willingness is what moves me. You're not a project I'm disappointed in. You're a beloved soul I'm walking with, patiently, joyfully, fully aware of both your beauty and your becoming. So take a breath. Lay down the invisible measuring stick. Let go of the fear that one wrong step will ruin everything. I am bigger than your missteps. I'm sovereign even over your learning curves. I weave purpose through imperfection. And I'm not asking for polished performance, I'm asking for your trust. I want you to know that your presence is not contingent on being flawless. Your belonging is not based on being impressive. You are enough not when you meet every demand, but right now, as you are, with the process still unfolding. You don't need to prove yourself. You are already known, already chosen, already loved. It's over for the invisible standards that suffocated your joy. It's over for the anxiety that came from constantly editing yourself for approval. I'm lifting that weight off your shoulders. I'm inviting you to rest in grace that doesn't expire, to laugh without calculating, to try without fearing failure, to live without obsessing over every outcome. I'm restoring your innocence, your spontaneity, your peace. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. And you, just as you are worthy to be here. Let's bring into the light what you've been holding in the dark, not because you wanted to hide it, but because you didn't want to hurt anyone else. You've swallowed your truth so many times, not out of weakness, but out of love. You convinced yourself that staying quiet was more compassionate, that not rocking the boat was the noble thing to do, that peace meant pretending. So you smiled when you were hurting. You nodded when you were misunderstood. You listened when no one heard you. And over time, your silence became a language of survival. But now I ask you, how long will you keep shrieking in the name of keeping others comfortable? I created you with a voice not to be loud for the sake of volume, but to be clear for the sake of freedom. There are things inside of you that need to be spoken, not just for your healing, but for the healing of others. When you silence your truth, you bury the revelation I placed in you. And I know speaking up has cost you in the past. Some walked away, some dismissed you, some turned your honesty into ammunition, and that pain made you retreat. But I never told you to silence what I gave you to release. The truth is, your story carries power. Your voice carries light. And your experience, no matter how messy, how misunderstood, how complicated, is sacred. You are not a burden when you speak your reality. You are not causing division by naming what broke you. You are not dangerous for telling the truth. What's dangerous is pretending. Pretending you're fine when you're not. Pretending you agree when your soul is growing. Pretending you're at peace when your heart is screaming in conflict. I never called you to pretend. I called you to walk in truth. And truth requires voice. I know it's been hard. I know what you risk when you choose honesty. But I also know what you lose when you don't. You lose yourself. You lose your clarity. You lose the very essence of what I breathed into you. So I'm restoring your voice now, not just in words, but in presence. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to speak, even when it disrupts the comfortable silence others are used to. You don't have to keep minimizing your pain to preserve someone else's version of peace. That's not harmony, that's bondage. And I came to set you free. Your voice is not the problem. Your refusal to listen is not your responsibility. And you can love others without abandoning yourself. You can show compassion without erasing your convictions. You can be gentle without being invisible. I'm teaching you how to speak in strength, how to reveal your truth without shame, how to honor your experience without needing others to approve of it. I didn't just give you breathe, I gave you something worth breathing out. Testimony, wisdom, freedom, boldness. And now, it's time to let it be heard. It's over for the version of you that stayed quiet to keep others from squirming. It's over for the spiritual muzzle that kept your heart caged. I'm removing the fear that said, they will handle it well. I'm replacing it with faith that says, I will handle them. You just speak. I'll do the rest. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be real. And in that honesty, I will meet you with grace, with power, and with peace, not just for you, but for everyone your truth is meant to reach. Let me touch what you've been using to cope, because I know it hasn't truly comforted you. You didn't set out to run from healing, you were just trying to survive the ache. So you reached for things that distracted the pain, softened the noise, and made the silence feel a little less sharp. Maybe it was a routine, a relationship, a screen, a secret. Maybe it was always just a little something to get you through. Something to fill the quiet hours, something to calm the storm, something to avoid the wound. But deep down, you've known it wasn't healing you. It was only helping you hide. And I never created you to live hidden from your own heart. There's a difference between comfort and escape. What comforts you draws you closer to me. What numbs you drags you deeper into delay. Some things feel like peace on the surface, but they quietly anchor you in patterns that keep you from moving forward. You've told yourself, it's not that serious, but your spirit has felt the slow erosion. You felt the way your fire faded. You've sensed how your clarity got cloudy. You've noticed how hard it is to pray, to dream, to feel like yourself when that habit stays close. But I haven't condemned you for it. I've understood. I've sat with you in the middle of it, not to accuse you, but to gently remind you, this isn't where your healing ends. I know the trauma that led you to cope this way. I know the betrayal that broke something open in you. I know the exhaustion of trying to fix what was never your fault. I know how much easier it seemed to just push the pain down and find a way to function. But I don't want you to just function, I want you to flourish. I want you to breathe deeply again, not just exist. I want your joy back, not the temporary escape, but the joy that settles and stays. And for that to happen, we have to let go of what's been numbing your soul. This is not about shame, it's about freedom. I'm not pointing to your struggle to embarrass you. I'm pointing to it because I want to walk you out of it. I want to take you beyond the cycle that has tricked you into thinking survival is enough. I want to heal the part of you that believed comfort and healing were the same thing. Because they're not. Healing will require your presence, your honesty, your surrender. But I promise on the other side of that surrender is more peace than you've ever tasted in your life. You don't have to go back to that habit tonight. You don't have to tell yourself, just one more time. You don't have to keep saying, I'll stop when things are better. Things become better the moment you believe you're ready to be free. And you are ready. That's why I'm speaking this now. You've tried to manage it, but I came to remove it. You've tried to limit it, but I came to end it. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm jealous for your heart. I want your full attention. I want your whole presence. I want you fully alive, not sedated by patterns you were never created to depend on. It's over for the coping that kept you surviving but never allowed you to heal. It's over for the self-soothing that separated you from my soothing. I'm not replacing it with emptiness, I'm replacing it with encounter. With love. With peace that doesn't fade when the high wears off. This time, the healing will be real. This time, you won't just feel better, you'll become whole. Let me walk you out of the habit and into your freedom. I've already started. I saw when your hope began to tremble. You once carried dreams with excitement, with childlike faith, with vision that stretched beyond your current view. You whispered them to me at night. You prayed over them when no one else knew. You made space for them in your heart, believing they were planted by my hand. But then came delay. Then came detour. Then came discouragement wrapped in the disguise of logic and self-protection. And little by little, what once felt sacred began to feel risky. So you tucked your dreams away, not because they weren't real, but because it hurt too much to hope for them anymore. You told yourself you were being wise, that maybe it wasn't the right time, that maybe the dream was too big or too much or too unlikely. But the truth is, you were afraid to feel the weight of disappointment again. You were tired of the emotional whiplash, getting your hopes up only to watch doors close, people walk away, timing shift, or answers stay silent. So you buried your vision, not in rebellion, but in exhaustion. You figured, maybe I misheard God. Or maybe I was just imagining it. But I want you to hear me clearly now. I never stopped dreaming with you. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it wasn't from me. I placed that desire in your heart on purpose, and no amount of delay can cancel what I authored. The timeline may have changed it, but the promise didn't. The path may have shifted, but the outcome is still in my hands. What you thought was denial was really my protection. What you assumed was rejection was often redirection. Not everything you desire was ready to hold you, and not everything you prayed for was yet prepared to carry your anointing. But that didn't mean I said no. It meant I was preparing the dream and preparing you at the same time. Now I'm calling that vision back to life. I'm breathing over what you buried. I'm reviving what was shelved. Not to taunt you with what could have been, but to remind you that it still can be. I didn't forget. I didn't withdraw. I didn't let it go. And I'm asking you now to pick it back up, not with the pressure to make it happen, but with the trust that I will. You don't need to force it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to believe again. Open your hands. Open your heart. And allow yourself to dream with me once more. This time, you won't be dreaming alone. I'll be walking with you in every step, giving you wisdom where you once had worry, strength where there was hesitation, resources where there was lack. This time, your dream won't just rest on your shoulders, it will rest in my timing, my power, and my grace. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. And your dream is not dead. It was only sleeping. And now, like I once said to the little girl who looked lifeless in their eyes, I say to your dream, rise. It's over for the grave you dug for your calling. It's over for the silence you accepted over visions that once made you come alive. I'm reigniting what was dimmed. I'm validating what was doubted. I'm resurrecting what fear told you to release. Because your dream still matters. Your purpose still stands. And I'm not finished, not with the dream, and not with you. Let me settle this within you once and for all. Your identity is not fragile, shifting, or dependent on outcomes. I've seen how easily you've internalized the storms, how every failure made you feel less worthy, how every rejection felt like confirmation that maybe you weren't enough, how every unexpected change made you question if you were still called, still seen, still loved. You didn't ask to lose your footing. You were just trying to make sense of what didn't make sense. But somewhere along the way, you began letting circumstances narrate your worth. You began letting opinions define your place. You began letting the instability around you convince you that maybe, just maybe, you were unstable too. But I'm here to silence that confusion. I'm here to untangle that inner conflict that has made you second-guess your identity every time something didn't go as planned. You are not the sum of your experiences. You are not defined by your success or your struggle. You are not a reflection of who walked away or what broke apart. You are who I say you are. And my words don't shift with the weather of your life. When things around you crumble, it doesn't mean you've crumbled. When you feel lost, it doesn't mean you've lost me. When the people you love don't recognize your worth, it doesn't reduce your value, it only reveals that their vision was too small for what I'm building inside of you. Your identity isn't negotiable. It's not up for debate. It's not dependent on how loud the applause is or how silent the support may be. It's rooted in me, and I do not change. You are my beloved. You are my masterpiece. You are my messenger. You are the one I've chosen, not because of your resume, but because of your heart. And every attack against your identity has come because the enemy knew what was on your life before you fully did. That's why the opposition started early. That's why the confusion ran deep. Because if you ever truly believed who you are, you'd become unstoppable in my hands. So today, I'm anchoring your identity not in feelings, but in truth. Not in performance, but in promise. Not in the past, but in my presence. You no longer have to keep trying on different versions of yourself just to feel accepted. You no longer need to chameleon your personality depending on the room you're in. You no longer need to wonder if you're too but you're not enough. You are exactly who I created you to be on purpose, for purpose, in purpose. This isn't just about confidence, it's about alignment. When you know who you are, you stop wasting energy proving it. You stop chasing things that contradict it. You stop living in anxiety over every shift, because you know your identity is rooted in something that cannot be moved. I didn't build your foundation on sand. I built it on me, and I do not shake. So when the world rattles around you, remember, I am your center. You will not fall apart. You will not disappear into confusion. You will not return to questioning what I've already confirmed. It's over for the identity crisis that made you look everywhere but me for your reflection. It's over for the insecurity that echoed louder than my voice. It's over for the pressure to reinvent yourself with every season. I'm reminding you now you are seen, secure, and sealed in my love. You don't need to guess who you are anymore. You only need to remember who I've always said you are. You are mine, and that will never change. Let me quiet the rush inside you, because I see how it's been wearing you down. You've lived like there's a countdown always ticking in the background, as if you're falling behind, as if time is slipping too fast and you're not doing enough to catch up. You equated motion with meaning. You filled your days with constant doing, moving from one task to the next, convinced that slowing down meant falling behind. But the truth is you haven't been living. You've been sprinting. Sprinting toward what? A version of success someone else defined. A finish line I never set. A destination you've never even had time to pause and identify. I never called you to run yourself ragged in the name of purpose. I called you to walk with me. Side by side. Step by step. Pace by peace-filled pace. But you've been measuring your worth by how much you can accomplish before the day ends. By how quickly you can get there, even if you're not sure where there is. You felt like if you slowed down, everything would fall apart. But I'm here to tell you, the only thing falling apart is the illusion that you have to earn your value by rushing. I've watched you push yourself beyond limits, sacrifice rest, ignore your soul's cry for stillness, all because of an urgency that didn't come from me. That urgency came from pressure, from fear, from comparison, from lies that told you if you didn't get it done now, you'd miss your moment forever. But here's what I want you to know. I am the keeper of time, not you. I redeem time. I restore time. I don't rush my children into anxiety, I lead them into rhythm. And your rhythm has been off. Your body is tired. Your mind is cluttered. Your spirit is whispering for space. You keep asking for clarity, but you've been too hurried to hear it. I don't shout over noise, I wait for silence. I wait for surrender. And I'm waiting now not to scold you, but to guide you back to the cadence of heaven. I don't need you to do more. I need you to breathe more. To notice me. To walk instead of race. To listen instead of just plan. You're not late. You're not failing. You're just exhausted from chasing a timeline I never gave you. So pause. Let the urgency fall off of you like layers of armor you never needed. Let the lie that says you're behind be replaced by my truth that says you're right on time. You have not missed your moment. You have not ruined your calling. You are not too old, too far gone, too delayed. You're exactly where you need to be to hear this. I'm not rushing you. I'm restoring you. I'm slowing the pace not to punish you but to prepare you. Because where I'm taking you requires peace, not panic. Purpose, not pressure. Intimacy, not a balance. If you continue in the rush, you'll arrive burnt out at places I designed for your joy. And I didn't bring you this far to watch you collapse under pressure I never intended for you to carry. I'm exchanging your hustle for holy stillness, your worry for wisdom, your panic for peace. And I promise, the world will not fall apart if you rest, but you might fall apart if you don't. It's over for the pace that drained your soul and made you believe urgency was obedience. It's over for the lie that your value increases the faster you move. I'm rewriting your rhythm. I'm renewing your mind. I'm inviting you to walk with me again, not toward a finish line, but into a fullness that only stillness can reveal. Let's slow down, together. Everything I promised is still ahead, and you won't miss it because I'm the one who brings it to you. Let me speak to what you've tried to bury beneath your progress, because I see it still tries to rise. You've repented. You've turned. You've wept in my presence and walked in a new direction. But still, there's a weight you carry that I never asked you to hold. Guilt. Quiet, persistent, unspoken guilt. It creeps in during your moments of reflection. It whispers when things begin going well. It resurfaces when someone brings up your past or when you catch yourself remembering the person you used to be. And though you know I've forgiven you, part of you still punishes yourself. But hear me now. There is no sentence left for you to serve. You don't need to resuffer what I already paid for. You don't have to live in the shadows of what's already been covered by grace. I didn't set you free so you could live like a prisoner with the cell door wide open. I didn't cleanse you just to watch you crawl through life as if you were still stained. When I said it is finished, I meant the shame too. The self-condemnation. The inner dormant. The cycle of remembering your failure more than my faithfulness. You see, guilt has a way of disguising itself as humility. It makes you think that punishing yourself is noble. That keeping your head low and your heart heavy somehow proves your repentance. But true repentance isn't proven by self-punishment. It's revealed in surrender. And you surrendered. You changed. You walked away from what once held you. And yet, this guilt tries to convince you that you haven't earned your restoration. But restoration isn't earned, it's given. And I gave it to you. The enemy wants you to believe that your freedom is fragile. That at any moment, I might revoke it. That if you mess up again, I'll suddenly stop loving you. But I don't love conditionally. I don't restore halfway. I don't clean a house and then abandon it. I restore to dwell. And I dwell in you. Not because you're perfect, but because you said yes. And my yes to you is louder than your history. I know what you did. I know what you thought. I know what you hid. And I still chose you. I still call you mine. Not reluctantly, but joyfully. I don't look at you and see what you were. I look at you and see what I placed inside you before shame ever tried to bury it. And now, I'm resurrecting that part of you fully. Not just in function, but in identity. You are not a former mistake trying to do better. You are a beloved creation who hath been redeemed completely. So let it go. Not just in your words, but in your beliefs. Stop waiting to feel worthy enough to walk in peace. Stop rehearsing your regrets like they still define you. Stop fearing that your past might somehow catch up to your purpose. I've already gone before you. I've already erased the trail that shame is trying to lead you down. I'm not keeping a record. I'm not shaking my head. I'm rejoicing. Because you came back. Because you trusted me. Because you let me in. It's over for the guilt that survived forgiveness. It's over for the shame that snuck in through the cracks of memory. I'm sealing those cracks now. I'm reinforcing your freedom. I'm declaring that you are clean, chosen, and covered not just in theory, but in truth. Walk in it. Smile again. Laugh without suspicion. Worship without wondering if you're allowed to be that free. You are. Because I made you free. And whom the sun sets free is free indeed. Let me speak into the quiet ache you've grown used to carrying, the one that never fully left, even when people were around. You've laughed in conversations while your heart was aching in the background. You've stood in circles, smiled in rooms, shown up to events, but still walked away feeling unseen. It's not that you've been alone in a physical sense. What you felt is something deeper. A disconnect. A longing for someone to truly understand, not just hear you. To recognize your depths, not just react to your words. To sit with you in your silence and still know what your heart is saying. And I want you to know, I have seen every moment of that silent ache. You've hidden it well. You've carried it like a pro. But even while you were surrounded, you've whispered, why do I still feel so alone? You've wondered if anyone will ever really know you all the way. If anyone will sit with you and stay long enough to understand your heart without needing to fix it, change it, or rush it. You've craved companionship that feels like rest, not pressure. That feels like home, not a role you have to play. And while others came and went, That emptiness stayed. But I haven't overlooked you. And I haven't left. I've been beside you in the middle of those crowds. I've been with you in the silence after the call ended, after the door closed, after the lights went out. I was a comfort when your chest felt heavy, the peace when your smile faded behind closed doors. Because no one, not even the kindest souls, can fill the place in your heart designed for me. What you've called loneliness was often a divine reminder that no matter who surrounds you, your soul needs me more than it needs attention or applause. And now I want to go further. I don't just want to sit with your loneliness, I want to heal it. I want to touch the space that has waited quietly for genuine connection. I want to fill it first with my presence so that no relationship you enter becomes a desperate search for what only I can give. Because when you're full of me, you stop chasing temporary company to quiet eternal need. You begin attracting what aligns, not what distracts. You begin desiring what reflects my heart, not what distracts yours. I'm not just giving you people, I'm giving you purpose-filled connection. I'm surrounding you with souls that see the real you. Those who don't require you to shrink to be loved. Those who stay, not just when you're strong, but when you're silent. And before I send them, I'm going to anchor you in something unshakable. You are never alone. You've never been. Not for a single moment. Even in the depths of your isolation, my presence has wrapped around you like oxygen. Quiet, constant, unseen but essential to your survival. So breathe deeply now. You can stop apologizing for needing others. You can stop pretending you're okay when you're not. You can stop overextending just to be noticed. You are already seen. You are already held. You are already known. And because of that, the emptiness you've grown used to will no longer follow you into the next season. I'm filling it with fullness. I'm replacing hollowness with wholeness. I'm not just silencing the ache, I'm healing the root. It's over for the loneliness that settled like a shadow in your soul. It's over for the nights you questioned your worth because you felt forgotten. I remember you. I remain with you. And I am rebuilding you in the quiet so when the crowd surrounds you again, you won't be searching for yourself in their eyes. You'll already be full, already whole, already found in me. Let me speak to the way you've been trained to survive, because I see how much it's cost you inside. Somewhere along your journey, you were taught that strength meant staying silent, that power meant pushing through, no matter what, that being okay meant never showing cracks. So you put on a brave face even when everything beneath it was breaking. You smiled through heartache. You carried burdens in silence. You convinced yourself that tears made you weak, that pain made you unstable, that emotions were something to battle, not something to honor. But I never asked you to wear that version of strength. I never asked you to build walls so thick that not even I could get through them at times. I never called you to numb your feelings in order to prove your faith. I created you with emotion not as a liability, but as a gift. Your ability to feel deeply was never a flaw. It was part of my image in you. And yet, you felt the pressure to suppress your sadness, to mute your anger, to deny your grief. Because somewhere along the way, you believed that strength only looked like composure. But real strength is not in the hiding, it's in the healing. And healing begins with honesty. Not just honesty with others, but honesty with yourself. You've walked through some incredibly difficult moments, and instead of falling apart, you kept functioning. And while the world may have applauded that, I see the cost. I see how much you've buried. I see the exhaustion in your soul from carrying unspoken sorrow for so long. You don't need to keep pretending anymore. I don't need your performance, I desire your presence. I want you raw, real, and unrehearsed. You are allowed to feel it all. The weight of what happened. The confusion of unanswered prayers. The ache of what was lost. You're not less faithful for feeling overwhelmed. You're not less spiritual for saying, "This hurts more than I expected." In fact, acknowledging your pain doesn't push me away, it pulls me closer. I'm near to the brokenhearted. I draw close to the crushed in spirit. And I can do more with your tears than you ever could with your silence. So let it out. Let it break open. Not in chaos, but in surrender. Cry if you need to. Grieve if you haven't yet. Yell if it clears the air between your heart and mine. I can handle it. I'm not surprised by your sorrow. I'm not put off by your depth. I'm not disappointed in your humanity. I created you with the capacity to feel so you could experience the fullness of my love, especially in the places where the world told you to be numb. You don't have to hold it together for me to stay close. You don't have to bury the ache to remain beloved. You don't have to wear emotional armor to keep my favor. I love you when you're brave, and I love you when you're broken. I love you in the strength and in the stillness. And now, I'm teaching you a new way to be strong, not by denying what's real, but by bringing it to me. It's over for the strength that demanded you silence your soul. It's over for the days of stuffing down every feeling just to keep moving. I'm giving you permission to stop, to breathe, to feel, to heal. You are still strong when you cry. You are still holy when you grieve. And you are never too much for me, not in your pain, not in your emotion, not in your honesty. Let me redefine what it means to be strong. Let me show you that the softest places in you are often the ones where I shine the brightest. Let me speak to the weight you've been carrying in the name of faithfulness, because I see how often you stayed longer than you were meant to, hoping they would finally value what you gave so freely. You've held on to people, places, and patterns with a grip so tight, not because you didn't know better, but because your heart is wired for loyalty. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. You gave second chances when you barely had energy left for yourself. You stood in the gap, believing you were doing the right thing even when the right thing was breaking you. But child, loyalty is not supposed to cost you your wholeness. It's not meant to drain your soul in secret while you smile in public. You were taught that walking away means betrayal, that stepping back means failure, that choosing peace means giving up. But I want you to hear this. Letting go of what is wounding you is not rebellion, it's wisdom. You can be compassionate and still have boundaries. You can be faithful without being consumed. I never asked you to lay yourself down at the feet of those who only remembered your worth when it served them. I've seen the moments you defended others when no one defended you. I've watched you love consistently while being treated as optional. I heard the prayers you whispered for people who forgot to pray for you. And I know you didn't do it to be seen. You did it because that's who you are. But now, I need you to know something deeper. Your loyalty is sacred. And I'm teaching you where to pour it, how to protect it, and when to stop giving it to what no longer honors me or you. You don't owe anyone your healing. You don't have to remain in places that drain your spirit just to prove your love. You've tried to fix things I never assigned you to fix. You've tried to hold things together that I was already pulling apart. You thought your presence could redeem what only my presence ever could. But redemption isn't always about staying, it's sometimes about releasing. And I'm releasing you now. Not from love, but from imbalance. Not from compassion, but from captivity. I want to teach you a new way to love, a way that doesn't leave you empty. A way that doesn't cost you your voice. A way that reflects my heart, not your fear of abandonment. The people I bring into your next chapter will not only receive your loyalty, they will reflect it. They won't just tolerate your presence, they will honor it. You won't have to overextend, overexplain, or overgive just to be seen. Because I'm restoring your circle. I'm pruning what has been clinging without contributing. I'm clearing the space around you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You've outgrown the environments where your love had to fight to be recognized. You've matured beyond the patterns where loyalty meant losing yourself slowly. And now, I'm leading you into relationships where you are not only safe to be seen, but celebrated when you are. This is what I do. I take what wore you down and lead you into what lifts you up. It's over for the loyalty that required your silence, your depletion, your one-sided sacrifice. I'm giving you balance now. I'm teaching you discernment. I'm anchoring you in truth that doesn't confuse loyalty with self-neglect. You can still love them. You can still bless them. But now you can also walk away with peace. And I will walk with you. Let me come close to the part of you that's been whispering for help, while your face tells the world you're okay. You've grown used to the routine of hiding what hurts, not because you lack courage, but because you learned that honesty sometimes makes people uncomfortable. You tell yourself they wouldn't understand, or they have enough going on already, and so you bury your truth beneath busyness, beneath politeness, beneath smiles that don't quite reach your eyes. But child, I see what you've been hiding. I see how hard you've worked to keep others comfortable, even when your own soul was cracking beneath the surface. You've become skilled at functioning while hurting, answering messages, showing up, completing tasks, saying I'm fine out of habit rather than truth. But behind the curtain of routine is a heart that has been quietly asking, when will someone notice that I'm not okay? And I want you to know I noticed. Before anyone else did, I saw the sorrow behind your laughter. I heard the questions beneath your silence. I felt the weariness that no amount of rest seemed to restore. And I'm not here to shame you for hiding. I'm here to pull you gently out of the shadows where you've been surviving. Because I never created you to live hidden behind strength. I created you to live honest before me. You don't need to maintain the image of having it all together. I'm not impressed by your composure, I'm moved by your surrender. And your healing begins when you let the mask fall. You don't have to be the strong one today. You don't have to rehearse answers or pretend the ache isn't there. I already know it's there. I've already felt it with you. And now, I want to live it. There's no need to explain yourself to me. No need to justify why you kept hidden for so long. I understand. The world can be loud with expectations and slow to offer safe spaces. But I am not the world. I am your refuge. And I can handle the full weight of what you've been holding inside. You don't need to fear that your honesty will push me away. On the contrary, your vulnerability pulls me even closer. Because I heal what is revealed. I mend what is brought into the light. So tell me what you haven't told anyone. Cry the tears you've been storing behind practiced smiles. Speak the truth that's been trapped in your chest. I won't rush you. I will hush you. I won't shame you. I'll sit with you in it. And then I'll begin to lift it. Bit by bit. Breath by breath. Until what once felt unbearable now feels held. Until what once felt hidden now feels healed. Until what once felt like a storm now feels like stillness. You're allowed to be honest. You're allowed to not be okay. You're allowed to lay down the image and pick up intimacy with me instead. I didn't come for your perfection, I came for your heart. And I'm not going anywhere. Even when the pain feels too deep for words. Even when the grief feels endless. Even when the days feel heavy and the nights feel long. I remain. With you. In you. For you. It's over for the pretending that everything is fine while you crumble inside. I'm giving you permission to let it out. To lay it down. To stop performing and start healing. You don't need to protect anyone from your truth, not even me. I'm not shocked by your pain. I'm not overwhelmed by your story. I'm the healer who already knew. And I've been waiting right here, arms wide open, ready to meet you in the honesty that leads to your breakthrough. Let me step into the part of you that keeps taking responsibility for the pain others caused. You've worn guilt like a second skin, not because you did wrong, but because you felt responsible for holding everything and everyone together. Somewhere along the way, when things fell apart, you quietly whispered to yourself, maybe it was me. Maybe you believed that if you had spoken sooner, reacted differently, stayed longer, or tried harder, the outcome would have changed. And so, piece by piece, you started internalizing what was never yours to carry. But child, hear me now, it wasn't your fault. Not the betrayal. Not the abandonment. Not the way they chose to treat you when you were only trying to love them the best way you knew how. You gave your heart. You offered your presence. You showed up, again and again, even when it cost you sleep, peace, or parts of your joy. You assumed if they walked away, it was because you lacked something. But their departure was not proof of your failure, it was proof of their limits. And it's time to stop making yourself the villain in stories where you were only ever the one holding on. I've watched you take on the weight of everyone's decisions that were born out of their wounds, not your worth. I've seen the inner conflict that rises when you look back and replay every conversation, wondering what you could have done differently. But I don't want you to live in replay anymore. I want you to live in release. Release from the roles others projected onto you. Release from the emotional weight that's been wrapped around your shoulders like a silent punishment. Release from the lie that said your pain was deserved. You are not the one who failed. You are the one who tried. You are the one who forgave when it wasn't asked for. You are the one who hoped when others grew distant. You are the one who stood in the fire while still trying to keep the room warm for everyone else. And I know when things collapsed, you felt abandoned. But I never left you. And I am still here now, not just to affirm you, but to unbind you from every lie that shame tried to sew into your identity. Let me take that blame from your hands. You've held it too long. You've nurtured it as if it belonged to you. But it never did. And the longer you carry it, the harder it becomes to see yourself clearly. You were not created to hold responsibility for the choices others made in their brokenness. That burden is not holy, it's heavy. And I'm lifting it now. Not just from your mind, but from your heart. From your nervous system. From your memory. From your identity. You are innocent of what you've been blaming yourself for. I'm healing the part of you that still thinks pain equals punishment. I'm restoring the clarity that shows you where your heart ends and someone else's wounding begins. You don't have to live in apology for the rest of your life. You don't need to keep performing penance for something that was never your fault. Forgive yourself not because you did wrong, but because you suffered long enough. And let my voice override the echoes that have tried to tell you you were to blame. It's over for the self-blame that kept you bound to false guilt. It's over for the secret shame that made you doubt your goodness. You were never the mistake. You were the light in a dark place. And now I'm pulling you out of that darkness not because you're guilty, but because you've been redeemed. This is the season of freedom, and that includes freedom from everything you were never meant to carry, not even for a second longer. Let me speak into the way you've learned to dim yourself just to make others feel okay. You didn't shrink because you lacked confidence, you shrank because you saw how others reacted to your growth. The way your joy made them silent. The way your clarity made them defensive. The way your confidence made them question their own. And over time, you started adjusting, toning yourself down, editing your truth, holding back your boldness not because you forgot who you were, but because you feared what being fully yourself might cost. And I know that cost has felt real. Relationships ended. Distance grew. Compliments stopped. Some even accused you of arrogance or called you too much. But child, hear me. You are not too much. I made you to shine. I placed my fire inside you not to be managed, but to be magnified. I designed you to walk into a room and shift the atmosphere not with noise, but with presence. Not with striving, but with substance. And when you begin living in the fullness of who I made you to be, not everyone will celebrate it. But that is not your burden to carry. You were not called to make yourself smaller so others could feel more secure. You were called to carry my light with strength, with truth, with grace. And those who are meant to walk with you will not be threatened by your radiance, they will be inspired by it. They will not ask you to shrink, they will rise beside you. You don't have to apologize for your anointing. You don't have to quiet your wisdom. You don't have to dull your insight. You were not made to disappear, you were made to reflect me. And reflection isn't always comfortable for you or for them. But I didn't call you to be accepted by everyone. I called you to be aligned with me. And alignment will cost you approval sometimes. But the reward is peace. The reward is power. The reward is being fully alive in your design. I didn't give you revelation so you'd hide it. I didn't pour fire into your bones so you whisper truth in rooms where I called you to speak it. You are a carrier of clarity, a messenger of mercy, a mirror of my glory. Don't trade that for comfort. Yes, some people like the version of you that stayed quiet, the version that didn't challenge them to grow, the version that didn't reveal how much they were settling. But if you keep hiding your light, you'll eventually forget how bright it was. And that would be the real tragedy, not that others left when you shined, but that you left yourself behind trying to hold on to them. I didn't give you this light so you'd use it selectively. I gave it to you so it would touch every dark place I send you to, without fear, without apology, without compromise. So stand tall again. Let your brilliance return. Say what I tell you to say. Walk where I tell you to walk. Be who I've called you to be. Stop dimming to survive. Start shining to serve. I will handle the responses. I will deal with the resistance. I will guard your heart as you walk in obedience. You don't have to hide anymore. You are not a threat, you are a light bearer. And when you walk in your divine fullness, chains break, eyes open, hearts awaken. It's over for the version of you that kept shrinking so others could stay comfortable in their smallness. I'm calling the real you forward now, not the edited version, not the dimmed version, but the blazing, bold, anointed, radiant reflection of heaven that I always intended you to be. This world doesn't need more silence, it needs your light. And I will be with you every step you take in it. Let me speak into the waiting season that's felt like a wilderness, not because you didn't believe, but because the time kept stretching longer than you expected. I know what it feels like to carry a word from me while watching the days pass with no visible sign. I know how it starts to feel when year after year goes by and the promise still hasn't touched the surface. I know the quiet ache you felt when others around you seemed to receive quickly what you've been contending for silently. And I see how you've wondered, did I hear wrong? Or was it really meant for me? But hear me now, just because the fulfillment has taken time doesn't mean the promise hath been cancelled. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are not being teased by destiny. What I've spoken over your life still stands. The delay was never meant to discourage you, it was meant to prepare you. I don't build fragile things in a hurry. And what I'm building in you is not fragile. It's enduring. It's rooted. It's eternal. The delay was not a denial, it was divine construction behind the scenes. You couldn't see the soil I was tilling, the foundation I was reinforcing, the doors I was preparing not just for you to walk through, but for you to stand in without crumbling. Because what I'm giving you isn't just a moment of answered prayer, it's a season of sustained fulfillment. And that kind of fulfillment requires time, deep roots, clean motives, quiet surrender. I had to purify the parts of you that would have rushed the process. I had to heal what you didn't even know needed mending. Not to slow you down, but to protect you when the doors swing open. I know it's been hard. I know you felt overlooked. I know you've cried after others celebrated. I know the enemy whispered, maybe it was never real. But let me speak louder, it was real. Is real. It's just not finished yet. The wait wasn't wasted. The tears weren't wasted. The prayers you thought I hadn't heard, none of them went unnoticed. I was bottling them, counting them. And even when the silence screamed, I was still working. You've matured in this waiting season more than you realize. You've become softer in the ways that matter and stronger in the places that needed reinforcement. You've learned to walk with me, not just chase after outcomes. You've discovered that faith isn't proven by what you receive, but by how you wait when it's hard to believe. And your faith has been fragrant in my presence. I've watched you worship through wondering. I've seen you lift your head when disappointment tried to drown you. And I want you to know you've passed tests you didn't even know you were taking. Now the shift is coming. Not because you finally figured it out, but because the time I appointed is arriving. And when it does, you'll see why it took as long as it did. You'll see that I wasn't withholding, I was orchestrating. Every delay will make sense in the light of what's about to unfold. And when it comes, it won't come as a trickle, it will come as a flood of clarity, of favor, of restoration. And you will say, only God could have done this. It's over for the delay that whispered lies about my faithfulness. It's over for the discouragement that clouded your memory of what I promised. I'm breathing on that promise again. I'm stirring the waters again. I'm awakening the vision again. This is not the end of the wait, this is the beginning of the fulfillment. And I will do it. Not just because I said I would, but because I love you too much to leave you in the waiting forever. Let me gently undo the lie that told you you're not ready yet, because I see how it's made you sit down in places I've asked you to rise. You've been waiting to feel flawless before stepping into what I've already placed within you. You've assumed that the cracks in your story disqualify you from carrying my glory. You've told yourself, when I'm stronger, when I'm past this, when I finally overcome it all, then I'll be ready. But I want to tell you something you may have forgotten. I never needed your perfection to begin with. I only ever wanted your yes. You've mistaken the process for a prerequisite. You've convinced yourself that your current struggle discredits your calling. But that's not how I work. I am not limited by your unfinished places, I work through them. I am not waiting for you to arrive at some imaginary milestone of perfection before I move through your life. I move right in the middle of the mess. Right in the tension. Right in the wrestling. I used a man with a stutter to speak to kings. I used a woman who wept at my feet to carry resurrection news. I used broken vessels, time and time again, not as a backup plan, but by design. You keep disqualifying yourself for things I've already qualified you for. You keep stepping back when I've already sent the signal to go forward. You think, but I still get anxious, or I still struggle with doubt, or I still have wounds I haven't figured out. And I say I know, and I still choose you. Your pain doesn't cancel your purpose, it prepares it. Your healing is not a finish line. It's a journey. And I walk with you on that journey, not behind you, as a judge, but beside you, as your strength. The enemy would love for you to wait forever. He'd love for you to sit on your calling until every insecurity disappears. But if he can't steal your gift, he'll try to delay its release. He'll whisper, you're not ready. He'll hide every area where you still feel weak. But I don't work through human standards. I work through surrendered hearts. And your heart has said yes, even through the trembling, even through the tears, even through the fear of being seen too closely. And I honor that yes. Heaven moves when you say yes. You don't need to wait until the scars fade. You don't need to hide the parts of your story that still sting. In fact, it's the evidence of your survival that will speak to others. It's your honesty that will bring healing. It's your transparency that will carry my truth deeper than perfect words ever could. I'm not asking you to fake strength, I'm asking you to move forward in faith. Faith that says, even though I'm still healing, I trust you can use me. That's the faith I bless. So come as you are. Show up in your calling. Speak even when your voice shakes. Lead even when your legs tremble. Love even when your heart still remembers how it was broken. Because you are not being used because of your perfection, you are being used because of my presence. And I am with you. Completely. Constantly. Compassionately. You are ready not because you feel it, but because I've said it. It's over for the waiting room you sat in while waiting to be flawless. I'm calling you out of that room now. You don't need another delay disguised as preparation. You've been prepared. You've been refined. And I'm breathing fresh wind into your assignment now. It's time. You don't need to wait until you're perfect to carry my purpose. You just need to trust that I can shine through every part of you, even the ones you once hid. Let me speak into the hidden struggles, the ones that never made it into conversation, the ones too complex for words, the ones you've been carrying like secrets wrapped in silence. You smiled through spiritual warfare. You've shown up while breaking inside. You've led, prayed, and encouraged others while battling thoughts, temptations, fears, or patterns you never told anyone about. Not because you're fake, but because you didn't feel safe. You didn't want pity. You didn't want judgment. You didn't want anyone to look at you differently. So you told yourself, I'll handle this between me and God, and carried it privately. But even in private, the weight has grown heavier. The silence has felt suffocating. And I want you to know, I never asked you to carry it alone. You've mistaken secrecy for strength. You've equated isolation with holiness. But true strength is not in how much you can hold quietly, it's in how much you can surrender openly. You're not weak for struggling. You're not disqualified for being human. And you're not unspiritual because the battle has lasted longer than you thought it would. I saw you last night when your mind felt like a battlefield. I watched you question if freedom was ever going to come. I heard your whispered, "Help me," that never made it past your lips. And I answered it, even before you felt me near. I'm not afraid of your struggle. I'm not surprised by your patterns. I'm not disappointed by your weakness. I'm the one who entered your humanity to restore your divinity. I'm the one who walks through the valley with you, not just watches from the mountaintop. And now, I'm bringing light into that hidden place. Not to expose you, but to heal you. Because what stays bearing can't be transformed. You've managed the battle, but I came to end it. You've coped quietly, but I came to deliver loudly. You've called it my issue, but I call it my assignment. The very thing you've been afraid to name is the very area I'm about to turn into testimony. Not when you figured it all out, but now right in the middle of the fight. You don't need to wait to be spotless to be set free. Freedom starts the moment you stop hiding and start handing it over to me. Yes, I use community to heal. And yes, I use silence too. But isolation was never meant to be your prison. You were never meant to battle invisible giants while pretending you're fine. There is no shame in struggling. There is only healing in surrender. And I'm placing people in your life who won't be shocked by your honesty. Who will love you at your most real. Who will walk with you, not judge you. Who will remind you that you're not the only one. Because you aren't. You're not the only one who's fought in silence. You're not the only one who's worshipped through a war. You're not the only one who's carried a calling while also wrestling a weakness. But now, I'm declaring it's over. Not because you're stronger, but because you're finally ready to trust me with the full truth. The you behind the mask. The struggle behind the strength. The ache behind the armor. I'm not here to punish you, I'm here to rescue you. Fully. Finally. Faithfully. It's over for the quiet suffering that made you think you had to handle the storm alone. It's over for the lies that said, no one would understand. I understand. I've always understood. And I'm not asking you to be perfect, I'm asking you to be honest. Because healing isn't found in hiding. It's found in letting me all the way in. And I promise you this, once I begin to touch the hidden battle, what once held you will never hold you again. Let me come close to the part of you that's been afraid to let anyone, especially me, see everything. You've shown people the polished parts. You share what felt safe. You've opened up in small pieces, always careful, always editing, always testing how much is too much. And even with me, you've sometimes prayed as if I needed you to sound composed, rehearsed, filtered, as if the raw version of you might disappoint me. But I didn't come for your image. I came for your heart. There's a version of you that's still in hiding, the version shaped by past wounds, past reactions, past relationships that made you feel like being fully known was dangerous. Maybe someone once used your vulnerability against you. Maybe someone walked away when you let them in. Or maybe they stayed, but only loved the version of you that fit their comfort. And so you learned to hold back. You learned to smile when it hurt. You learned to say I'm fine when your soul was unraveling. But child, I've seen every hidden part of you before you even noticed them yourself. The thoughts you're ashamed of. The desires you never said out loud. The memories that still sting. The quiet struggles that never made it into a journal or a confession. And here I am, not backing away, but drawing closer. Not in shock, but in compassion. Not with judgment, but with open arms. There is nothing in you that intimidates me. I don't love the idea of you, I love the whole of you. Not just the strong moments, but the fragile ones. Not just the faith-filled declarations, but the whispered doubts. You don't need to perform intimacy with me. You don't have to sanitize your prayers. You don't have to pretend to be okay before entering my presence. I am already here, and I am not going anywhere. I want the real you, the quiet you, the questioning you, the undone you, because it's only in being fully seen that you can ever be fully loved. And that's what I came to offer: love that sees all and still stays. A love that knows all and still calls you mine. Your fear told you that exposure would lead to rejection. But I say, exposure with me leads to redemption. Everything you uncover, I cover in grace. Everything you reveal, I restore in truth. I don't use your mess against you, I use it to minister through you. And the things you thought would repel me are the very things I came to heal. I want to sit with the real you. Not for a moment, but for eternity. Not conditionally, but consistently. So stop apologizing for the parts of you that are still becoming. Stop retreating when emotions rise. Stop filtering your soul to be more palatable for others. I never asked you to be digestible for those who lack depth. I only asked you to be honest with me. I can take the raw version. In fact, that's the one I love the most. Because the real you is the one I created, not the version edited by experience or expectation. It's over for the fear that made you believe love would leave if it saw everything. I've seen it all, and my love hasn't budged. I've walked through every room of your heart, and I've called each one home. You don't have to hide anymore. You are fully known, and still fully wanted, still fully chosen, still fully mine. Let me free you from the invisible weight that's been driving you to keep doing more, just so you can feel like you're enough. I've watched how you've measured your value by how much you've accomplished in a day. I've seen how rest made you uneasy because it felt unearned. How even your quiet moments were filled with thoughts of what else needed to be done. You've mistaken your busyness for identity. You've convinced yourself that slowing down meant falling behind. And in trying so hard to keep up, you've lost sight of the truth I've always wanted you to live from. Your being matters more to me than your doing. You were never meant to earn your belonging. You were born into it. My love didn't begin when you became useful, it was there before you ever lifted a finger. And yet, the world around you applauds constant motion, rewards burnout, and equates significance with output. But I've never measured your purpose by your pace. I don't celebrate you only when you're productive, I celebrate you because you exist. Because you are mine. Because you carry my breath, not just my assignments. Somewhere along the way, you internalized the idea that rest was laziness, that being still meant being irresponsible. But that's not my way. I rested on the seventh day not because I was tired, but because I was finished. And you, too, are allowed to pause not out of weakness, but from wholeness. You are allowed to be still and know. You are allowed to breathe without producing. You are allowed to take a step back without fear of losing ground. Because the truth is, nothing I've called you to will be taken from you while you rest in me. You don't have to rush to hold things together. You don't have to say yes to everything just to be seen as faithful. You don't have to exhaust yourself to earn what I already gave freely. I'm not impressed by your performance, I'm moved by your presence. I'm not asking for more, I'm asking for more trust. I want you to trust that who you are matters, even when you're not producing anything that others can measure. I know you want to be excellent. I know you want to make a difference. And you will. But it won't be at the cost of your peace. I didn't create you to be a machine. I created you to walk with me, to live with margin, to overflow from intimacy, not emptiness. The pressure to prove isn't coming from me. It's coming from fear. From voices that told you your value was conditional. From lies that said you had to earn love. But I am rewriting that now. Your worth is not attached to your schedule. Your anointing is not based on your hustle. Your favor is not a reward for exhaustion. Everything I have for you flows from identity, not industry. So if rest makes you nervous, lean in. If slowing down feels foreign, stay still a little longer. If silence feels like a threat, let me speak into it. Because in that stillness, you'll hear what the noise kept drowning out. You are already enough. You don't need to do more to matter. You don't need to perform your purpose, you just need to walk in it. Freely. Gently. With me. The weight of performance is lifting now. The addiction to proving is breaking. The fear of being forgotten is fading. I remember you. I see you. I am pleased with you not for what you can produce, but simply because you are mine. It's over for the belief that worth must be earned through endless doing. I'm inviting you back to the kind of life that breathes, that trusts, that rests without guilt, that believes presence is more powerful than productivity. Let the striving stop. Let the pressure go. Let me remind you again. Your value was never in the work, it's in the relationship. And I've never once stopped loving you, even when you were too tired to love yourself. Let me touch the place where you learned to stay quiet, not from peace, but from fear of being misunderstood, dismissed, or rejected. You swallowed your truth more times than you can count. Not because you didn't have something to say, but because you were told your thoughts weren't welcome, your feelings were too much, or your insight wasn't valid. Over time, you stopped raising your voice. You stepped back in moments where you were born to step forward. You convinced yourself that invisibility was safer than confrontation, that silence was wisdom even when it tasted like regret. But child, your voice was never a mistake. I formed it. I shaped the cadence of your words, the way your thoughts form, the fire you feel when injustice surfaces, the clarity you carry when others are lost in noise. That wasn't an accident, that was intentional design. I gave you your voice as a tool of healing, authority, and change. But fear crept in. Somewhere, someone taught you that your silence was more acceptable than your strength. That submission meant suppression. That love meant never disagreeing. And now, you carry stories of silence that haunt you not because you didn't care, but because you were afraid it wouldn't matter if you did speak. But I want to say this to you clearly. Your voice matters. Your words carry my breath when you walk in truth. You were never meant to live muted. You were never meant to nod along when your soul said, "Speak up." You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to know everything to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be used. I've placed inside you a voice that, when aligned with me, shifts atmospheres, breaks generational silence, and brings light into hidden places. The enemy has attacked your voice because he knows what happens when you use it. He knows chains break when you open your mouth. He knows walls crumble when you speak in alignment with heaven. That's why shame came so quickly when you tried to express your heart. That's why resistance came every time you thought, maybe I should say something. But I am removing that fear now. I am dismantling the lies that told you your voice was dangerous or disruptive or unnecessary. It was dangerous to darkness. It was disruptive to silence that should have never been normalized. And it's more necessary than ever now. I'm calling your voice out of hiding. I'm not asking you to argue. I'm asking you to declare. To speak when I nudge you. To open your mouth when injustice cries out. To share your truth, even when your hands shake. To stand up for what is righteous, even when no one else joins you. Because when you speak what I give you, I stand behind your every word. You are not alone. I will fill your mouth. I will go before you. I will shield your heart. No more silence in the name of survival. No more walking away from conversations with words burning inside your chest that you never released. I'm restoring your voice not just in sound, but in confidence. The power to speak, the courage to disagree, the authority to intercede, the boldness to release the truth, even when it's inconvenient. I'm raising a warrior from the ashes of your silence. It's over for the false peace that came from keeping quiet when you were born to speak. I'm giving you strength now. Strength to speak with love. Strength to speak with fire. Strength to stand even when your voice trembles. You are not too much. You are not too late. And the words you've been holding in, they are about to set someone else free. Let them out. I'm with you, and I always will be. Let me speak into the exhaustion you've carried from trying to hold together pieces you were never meant to repair. You've taken the weight of situations, relationships, and outcomes onto your own shoulders, not out of pride, but out of compassion. You stepped into roles you weren't assigned because your heart couldn't bear to watch people fall apart. You stayed when others walked away. You've poured from your emptiness. You've prayed, interceded, explained, apologized sometimes for things you didn't even do because part of you believed if you tried hard enough, maybe you could restore what was lost. But child, you were never meant to be their savior. That place is already taken. I admire your heart. I gave you that tenderness, that loyalty, that desire to make things whole. But the enemy twisted that gift into a burden. He convinced you that love meant overextending, that faithfulness meant absorbing responsibility that never belonged to you. And now, you're tired not just physically, but spiritually. Because you've been standing in the middle of other people's storms, thinking it was your job to stop the rain. I need you to know, you are not the glue that holds everyone together. I am. You don't have to rescue what I've already released. You don't have to rebuild what I'm intentionally allowing to fall. Not every collapse is a tragedy, some are mercy in disguise. I'm not asking you to abandon people. I'm asking you to trust me with them. Because as long as you keep trying to fix what's broken without me, you'll only delay their transformation and drain your own. I've seen the nights you've cried, wondering why things aren't changing, even though you've done all you can. I've heard your heart plead, what else can I do? And my answer is this: rest. You've done enough. You've sown in love. You've stayed longer than most would have. You've prayed faithfully. But now it's time to release it all into my hands. The outcome isn't your responsibility. Obedience is. And your obedience right now looks like stepping back and trusting that I know how to restore in ways you never could. You're not letting them down by letting go. You're finally giving me room to move. You've planted seeds. Let me be the one who makes them grow. Stop rehearsing every word you said or didn't say. Stop evaluating your worth by the results you didn't see. Your worth is not measured by who stays, who heals, or who listens. Your worth is rooted in me, not in outcomes. And I will not let what you released in love return void. I want to restore you now. I want to give you rest, not just for your body, but for your soul. Rest from being the one who always carries the emotional load. Rest from being the one who always fixes, patches, and rescues. I never created you to be exhausted from loving. I created you to love from overflow, not depletion. So come. Lay it down. All of it. The broken pieces. The what-ifs. The guilt that says you should have done more. I never asked you to do more. I asked you to trust me with what's beyond your reach. It's over for the burden of being the fixer of what others damage. It's over for the cycle of striving, saving, and silently suffering. I'm releasing you now, not from compassion, but from codependency. You can still love them and leave them in my hands. You can still care deeply and stop carrying what's not yours. Your freedom is not abandonment, it's alignment. And when you align with me, I will do the repairing. I will bring the healing. And I will also heal you from the years of carrying what you never had to. Let me step into that space in your heart where hesitation has silenced your boldness, not because you don't trust me, but because you've learned to doubt yourself. I've watched you feel something stirring deep within you, a nudge, a thought, a word, a pull, and instead of moving in it, you pause, you analyze, you wonder, was that really God or just me? You talk yourself out of what I already confirmed. You seek more signs, more clarity, more approval, until the moment passes. And later, you sit quietly with a heart full of regret, knowing deep down it was me all along. But I'm not here to condemn you for that. I understand why it's been hard to trust your own hearing. You've been made to feel like you're not spiritual enough, not wise enough, not worthy enough to carry my words or recognize my whispers. You've been told that only certain people hear me clearly, and somewhere along the way, you started believing that your intuition couldn't possibly be sacred. But I want to remind you today, you do hear me. You've been hearing me. You just didn't believe it could be that simple. You're not making it up. The still, quiet impression you sensed, that was me. The urge to encourage that person, that was me. The decision you kept feeling led to make, even when logic didn't support it, that was me too. I speak to my sheep, and you are mine. I'm not hiding from you. I'm not speaking in riddles just to watch you struggle. I'm not playing games with your faith. I speak in love. I speak in clarity. And I speak with the expectation that you will grow in recognizing my voice more confidently, not more fearfully. You don't have to have a flawless record of obedience to keep hearing me. You don't have to perform spiritual perfection. I'm not looking for robotic responses, I'm looking for relationship. And relationships include learning the steps and maturing. You're learning. And I celebrate that. But I want to free you from the paralysis of indecision. You're Redefining. The endless questioning of whether you're qualified to move forward in what I already showed you. You are qualified because I chose you. You are ready because I'll walk with you. And you are capable because my spirit is in you. This is how you'll grow, by moving. By trusting the prompting even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. By risking obedience even when you feel unprepared. Because the truth is, you'll never become confident in hearing me by staying still. You have to walk it out. And even if you take a wrong step, I'll be right there to redirect you. I'm not a distant God, waiting to scold you for missing my cue. I'm a present Father, ready to guide you through the entire process gently, faithfully, lovingly. So from this moment forward, I want you to stop disqualifying what I place in your heart. When I prompt you, trust it. When I nudge you, respond. When I call you to speak, speak boldly. You don't need to feel 100% sure every time because I am sure. I'm sure of who you are. I'm sure of who I made you to be. I'm sure of how I want to use your voice, your presence, your life. Your confidence doesn't come from your record. It comes from your relationship with me. It's over for the hesitation that kept you questioning your sensitivity to my spirit. I'm giving you peace now. I'm giving you clarity. I'm teaching you how to walk in spiritual confidence, not arrogance, not recklessness, but trust. Trust that you and I are close enough that you don't need 10 confirmations to act on what I've already shown you. Trust that I will never lead you where my grace won't cover you. Trust that even if you get it wrong, my correction will never sound like condemnation, it will always sound like love. Let me meet you right in the tension that has been quietly stretching you between past and future, because I see how much energy you've spent trying to outrun yesterday while reaching for tomorrow. You've been walking forward, yes, but still glancing back. Not because you want to return to what was, but because parts of you still feel bound to the version of yourself you've already outgrown. You carry echoes of old identities, mistakes, failures, decisions made in desperation, and even though your heart has changed, your memory still drags the weight of who you used to be. But listen closely now. You are not that person anymore. You are not your worst day. You are not your weakest moment. You are not the version of you that survived through survival mode. I was with you in those seasons. I walked with you through the nights you tried to forget. I held you through the consequences you feared would never end. And now that I've brought you through it, you don't have to keep dragging the old name into your new season. You keep trying to reconcile the transformation, asking yourself, can I really live like I'm free? The answer is yes. You can live like it never happened because I already paid for it as if it never did. I didn't just forgive you, I redefined you. I didn't just cleanse your hands, I rewrote your identity. And yet, your soul keeps rehearsing what I've already removed. You've been feeling the friction between your destiny and your history. But this war ends now. You don't need to keep proving that you've changed. You don't have to explain the gap between where you were and where I've brought you. The transformation speaks for itself. You don't need permission from your past to live in your present. You don't need to shrink in rooms where people only knew the older version of you. You don't owe them access to your process. You don't need to wait for anyone to acknowledge how far you've come before you can believe it yourself. I saw the whole journey, and I call it beautiful. You're not faking it. You're not pretending to be healed. You are healing. You are becoming. And every day that you walk in that, you are honoring me not by perfection, but by progress. Even on days when you feel the old patterns calling, even when familiar voices try to remind you of who you were, I want you to hold on to this truth. I have made all things new, and that includes you. So stop mourning who you no longer are. Stop punishing yourself for things that no longer define you. Stop identifying with a chapter that I already ended. You can celebrate who you've become without feeling guilty for what you had to leave behind. You're not being fake. You're being faithful to my work in you. Every time you step forward into joy, into purpose, into peace, you're honoring the blood that purchased your freedom. You're walking as proof that grace works. There will be days when you still feel the old emotions rise. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're human. But now, instead of returning to those patterns, you can recognize them, breathe through them, and choose me again. That's strength. That's maturity. That's the fruit of walking with me. It's over for the inner tug-of-war between your redeemed self and the broken identity you left behind. I'm giving you stability now. I'm establishing your new name in you so deeply that nothing from your past can uproot it. You are not split between two versions, you are whole in me. Chosen. Clean. Golden. My grace has the final word over your life, not your memory. Walk forward. No more looking back. Let me draw near to the sorrow you've tried to sanctify, the ache you've tried to spiritualize, the season you barely made it through because I know what it did to your hope. I saw you when the pain didn't make sense. I felt the sting when you tried to keep believing while everything inside of you was breaking. I heard the prayers you whispered with trembling lips, the ones that felt like they disappeared into the silence, the ones that felt too raw to repeat out loud. I saw how disappointment began to rewire your faith, not because you stopped trusting me, but because you started wondering if the dream was ever real at all. But I need you to hear me clearly now. Your pain did not cancel my promise. It didn't weaken it. It didn't delay it beyond repair. It didn't disqualify you from receiving it. The pain you walked through, yes, even the pain you didn't understand, was not a sign that you missed your way. It was part of the refining. Not the kind that destroys you, but the kind that proves what is unshakable. The kind that reveals just how deeply I've written my word into your life. The kind that removes what was built on emotion so what remains is rooted in truth. You've been wondering, was all that faith wasted? But child, nothing you've endured has been in vain. Not one tear. Not one season of isolation. Not one moment of silent surrender. I've stored every cry, and I've measured every moment. And while others may have forgotten the pain you hid behind your endurance, I never did. I've been keeping the promises alive even when your hands were too tired to carry them. You thought it was slipping away, but I was holding it together while I held you. I know you've seen others step into the very thing you were praying for. And I know that comparison tried to convince you that I skipped over you. But I don't play favorites. I'm not late. And I haven't overlooked what you carried. In fact, you've carried more than most. You've carried the pressure to keep smiling while breaking. You've carried the responsibility of faith when no one else was watching. You've carried burdens for others while wondering who would carry yours. And yet you stayed. You didn't walk away. You didn't let the pain turn you bitter. You're still here. And because you're still here, the promise still stands. I want you to stop believing that your broken season reduced your worth. I want you to stop thinking that because you doubted in the dark, I revoked what I said in the light. I am not a man who changes his mind. I don't withdraw my calling when your strength wavers. I don't retract my plans when your heart aches. I see your humanity, and I love you through it. I see your weakness, and I strengthen you in it. I see your journey, and I walk every step beside you, especially the ones you stumbled through. You are still chosen, still called, still favored, still on course, even after the setback, even after the silence, even after the heartbreak. Your pain does not intimidate me, and it certainly doesn't disqualify you. If anything, it makes room for my glory to be seen more clearly in your life. You are not less than others who didn't struggle, you're just more refined. And now, the promise that once felt distant is closer than it's ever been. It's over for the lie that said your wounds erased your worthiness. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to make up for lost time. You don't have to pretend the pain didn't leave marks. I see the marks, and I call them beautiful. Because they didn't disqualify you, they prepared you. And now, what I promised is still yours. You didn't miss it. You didn't ruin it. And I am faithful to finish what I started in you. Let me speak to the part of you that flinches at joy, that quietly prepares for things to fall apart before they've even begun, because I see the battles that take place in your heart before the blessing ever arrives. You've walked through enough loss, letdowns, and fall starts to train your spirit to doubt what's unfolding. When good things come, you tense instead of rest. You scan for what could go wrong instead of leaning into what is going right. And even when you receive what you once prayed for, you wrestle to believe it will last. But child, I want to heal that reflex in you. That automatic recoil that whispers, "This is too good to be true." That protective instinct that says, "Don't get your hopes up." That tired inner voice that repeats, "Blessings never stay." You didn't learn that from me. You learned that from pain. You picked it up in seasons where trust was shattered, where people left without warning, where answers came slowly and trials came fast. And without realizing it, you let your heart settle into a belief that said joy is temporary and disappointment is permanent. But I never designed you to live in defense mode. I designed you to live in delight, to receive without suspicion, to hope without fear, to believe in goodness without waiting for the catch. My blessings are not bait. I don't hand you joy only to rip it away. I don't tease your heart with beauty just to expose it to more heartbreak. When I bless with purpose, with consistency, with protection. I am not cruel. I am not unstable. And I do not bless just to test your ability to lose well. I want to give you something deeper than just moments of happiness. I want to give you trust that doesn't tremble when the door opens. Trust that welcomes abundance without analyzing it to death. Trust that believes good things can last because they come from a good Father. That doesn't mean life will always be perfect. It means your posture won't always be one of panic. You won't brace for heartbreak the moment you feel peace. You won't sabotage joy because your past taught you to fear it. I know what they did. I know how it ended. I know how the good turned sour before. I was there through it all. But I'm doing a new thing now. And I don't want you to miss it because you were too busy bracing instead of embracing. I don't want fear to keep whispering over my favor. I don't want your joy to be filtered through memories of loss. I want you to receive with open hands, to love with an unguarded heart, to celebrate without scanning for shadows. You matured. You've grown wiser, yes. But don't let wisdom become suspicion. Don't let discernment turn into distance. I want to soften the places that went numb from disappointment. I want to teach you how to enjoy without overthinking, to laugh deeply without preparing for silence, to love again without measuring exit points. You're not living on borrowed time, you're living in grace. And grace doesn't expire when it's genuine. So breathe. Lean in. Rest when the goodness comes. Trust that you don't have to figure it all out before receiving it. I'm not setting you up to fail. I'm setting you up to flourish. You mourn long enough. You've waited with clenched fists long enough. I'm placing beauty into your hands now, not so you'll fear losing it, but so you'll finally remember what it feels like to live freely. It's over for the fear that followed your joy like a shadow. I'm breaking the pattern of panic. I'm severing the cycle of almost. I'm removing the reflex to expect the worst. And I'm replacing it with confidence, security, peace that stays, joy that roots. You don't have to keep flinching. You can open your hands now. I am not going anywhere, and neither is my blessing. Let me address the quiet agreement you've made with self-doubt, the kind you've disguised as humility, the kind you've let settle in your mind without question. You've told yourself you were simply being realistic. You've convinced yourself that playing small was noble. You've shrunk opportunities, silenced your own voice, and walked away from places I opened, not because you lacked talent or grace, but because somewhere deep inside, you questioned if you truly deserved to be there. But child, true humility is not the denial of who you are, it's the full acceptance of who I've called you to be. You've mistaken false humility for virtue. You've repeated phrases like, "I'm just not good enough," or "others are better at this," or "I'm not ready," and you've believed that made you modest. But I see the root. It's not modesty, it's fear. It's insecurity dressed in caution. And I love you too much to let you keep making covenants with those lies. I'm not asking you to be arrogant. I'm asking you to stop apologizing for the way I created you. I'm asking you to stop hiding behind disclaimers when I've already declared my truth over you. I'm asking you to stop disqualifying yourself from assignments I've already stamped with my approval. You say I'm not enough, but I say you are chosen. You say, I don't want to make it about me, but I say, let your light shine, that they may see me in you. You've confused shrinking with surrender. You've confused timidity with obedience. But obedience looks like stepping forward when I say go, not because you feel ready, but because you trust my voice more than your doubts. You're not being holy by hiding. You're not being spiritual by silencing your gifts. You're being held back by lies that were never authored by me. You don't honor me by minimizing yourself. You honor me by walking boldly in who I made you to be. Not to show off, but to shine through. There's a difference between confidence in the flesh and confidence in me. One demands attention. The other releases impact. You were made for impact. But impact requires visibility. Visibility requires presence. And presence requires you to finally stop agreeing with everything smallness has told you about who you are. You were never meant to play the background of a life I handcrafted with purpose. You were never meant to disqualify yourself while others walk into rooms you were also anointed to enter. I'm removing false humility now. The kind that wears insecurity like armor. The kind that turns down compliments because they make you uncomfortable. The kind that sits silently when your spirit is full. I'm calling forth the real you, not the one the world trained, but the one I formed in secret. Draw, clear, courageous, prepare. So take up your space. Speak when I prompt you. Accept what I give you. Stop deflecting glory when it reflects me. Stop handing away assignments I place directly in your hands. And stop hiding under the label of humility when what you're really doing is avoiding the weight of your calling. I will help you carry it. You are not alone in this. But I can't magnify myself through what you constantly reject. It's over for the mindset that called weakness humility and masked fear as reverence. I'm rebuilding your identity not in pride but in clarity. You are my vessel. You are my voice in the places I send you. You are not a backup plan. You are not a substitute. You are the one I chose on purpose for this hour. Now walk like it. Speak like it. Receive like it. And let your life give me glory, not just in how you worship, but in how you believe what I've said about you. Let me step into the place where you stopped expecting to be chosen because being overlooked became your normal. You've told yourself it didn't matter, that you've moved on, that it didn't affect you the way others thought it would. But I see the unseen cost. I see how subtly it shaped the way you enter new rooms with caution, how you approach new relationships with hesitation, how you interpret compliments with suspicion, You've grown used to preparing for rejection before anyone even opens their mouth. You call it being realistic, but what it really is residue. You were never created to live in the shadow of who didn't see you. You weren't made to shrink your expectations just to avoid being disappointed again. You were designed to stand with boldness, rooted in the truth of who I say you are, not in the outcomes of who said no before. That no didn't define you. That silence didn't mean you weren't enough. That closed door wasn't proof that something was wrong with you. But the enemy used it to plant lies. Lies you've watered with repetition and now carry as self-protection. You've turned "I guess I'm not meant for this" into a quiet agreement with limitation. You've turned "they didn't choose me" into "maybe I'm not worthy." But child, that's not my voice. That's not your identity. That's not your truth. I never based your value on someone else's ability to see it. Whether they affirmed you or ignored you, my hand on you never changed. Whether they invited you or forgot you, my purpose for you never dimmed. Whether they called your name or passed you by, I always had you marked. I didn't choose you based on public applause. I chose you before anyone even had the chance to misunderstand you. I called you mine before you were wounded by their absence. And now, I want to heal the way that rejection rewired your self-worth. I want to teach you how to walk into opportunities without bracing for impact. To look people in the eye without wondering if you're too much or not enough. To receive love without dissecting it. To stand in rooms knowing that your presence doesn't need to be earned, it's already validated by me. You don't need to keep explaining your value to those who weren't sent to see it. You don't have to reduce your light to be tolerated. I never told you to fit in, I told you to stand out. Not for attention. For assignment. And that assignment doesn't disappear when people dismiss you. In fact, I often use their dismissal to redirect you. So stop holding your breath in new places, waiting for rejection to repeat itself. You are not in that season anymore. And you are not that same version of you anymore. Yes, rejection hurt. Yes, it changed you things. But what it didn't do is cancel the promise. It didn't take away the anointing. It didn't void your authority. And now, I'm replacing the echo of rejection with the sound of my voice. I'm saying you are accepted. I'm saying you are appointed. I'm saying you are not too late, too different, too much, or too little. You are exactly as I made you. And that is more than enough. It's over for the internal agreement you made with rejection. I'm breaking that off now. No more carrying shame like it's your identity. No more avoiding eye contact with doors you were born to walk through. No more dimming what I meant to shine. You are not defined by the ones who didn't see you, you are defined by the one who formed you. And I see you still. I always will. Now rise. Not in defense but in dignity. You are loved. You are known. And this time you will not be overlooked. Let me meet you in the weariness you've tried to normalize, the exhaustion you've renamed as discipline, the burnout you've masked as faithfulness, the quiet collapse behind your consistent yes. You've done so much, and you've done it with a good heart. You've shown up again and again, pouring when no one knew you were already dry. You said, "I'm okay," not because you were lying, but because you didn't know if anyone would understand the weight you were really under. And so, you kept going, kept producing, kept serving, kept responding, even when your soul was whispering, "I'm tired." But child, you were never created to live on spiritual fumes. You were never asked to become everything for everyone. You were never supposed to sacrifice your peace on the altar of performance. That was never my requirement. Somewhere along the way, the pressure crept in, the unspoken rule that said if you slow down, you'll disappoint someone. That if you rest, you will fall behind. That if you say no, you'll be seen as unreliable. That I want to expose the source of that pressure now. It didn't come from me. It came from culture, from fear, from past voices that demanded perfection. You've been holding so much together that you forgot what it felt like to simply be held. You've been so focused on doing that you've neglected the gift of just being. Being present. Being still. being loved without needing to earn it. And now, your spirit is calling out for room to breathe. And I'm answering. I'm not scolding you for feeling empty. I'm inviting you to be filled again. Not with more responsibility, but with me. You don't have to keep pushing through. You don't have to keep pretending that tiredness is holy. I never asked you to prove your worth through output. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. And if what you're carrying feels crushing, it means you picked up something I never placed on your shoulders. It's time to lay it down, not later, not when things slow down, not when people stop needing you, but now. Let me restore your margins. Let me reintroduce you to joy. Let me refill your heart with purpose that doesn't deplete you. You've been trying to meet standards that were built on comparison, not calling. You've said yes out of guilt, not guidance. You've shown up for everyone else, but now I want you to show up for yourself with honesty, with compassion, with space to heal. You are not lazy for needing rest. You are not selfish for wanting solitude. You are not weak for saying, I can't carry all of this anymore. You are human. And I designed your humanity to need replenishing. That's why I modeled rest. That's why I withdrew to quiet places. Not to hide, but to reconnect. And I want the same for you. Because when you are filled with me, you don't run on panic, fear, or pressure. You move with clarity, calm, and confidence. You give out of overflow, not obligation. You serve without losing yourself. You give without forgetting your own soul. It's over for the version of you that kept running on empty because it felt safer than being still. I'm calling you out of survival mode. I'm calling you into sacred rhythm. Not hustle, not burnout disguised as faith, but wholeness, sustainability, grace for the long journey ahead. You don't have to do more to be loved. You don't have to earn what's already been given. I am proud of your heart, but now I want to restore your pace. Lay it down, child. Let go of the pressure to always be available, always be strong, always be producing. Let me be your strength again. Let me remind you that you are not what you do. You are who I made you to be. And that, all by itself, is enough. Let me enter that tender place inside you, the one that still flinches when certain memories come up. The one that quietly wonders if true healing would mean never thinking about it again. You've come so far. You walked through pain with grace, through grief with strength, through heartbreak with dignity. And still, every once in a while, the past rises unexpectedly, not to drag you back, but to remind you that healing hasn't been about erasing but transforming. But somewhere along the way, you believed that if you were really whole, it wouldn't still hurt. That if you had truly let it go, you wouldn't still remember. That if your faith was strong enough, those emotions would never resurface. And so when they did, you questioned yourself. You questioned your growth. You thought, maybe I haven't truly healed. But child, healing is not the absence of memory, it's the absence of bondage in that memory. And you are further than you think. You may still remember what happened, but that doesn't mean it still owns you. The fact that you can look back and keep walking forward is not weakness, it's evidence of redemption. I never said I'd wipe your memory clean. I said I'd make all things new. And that includes the way you see what once broke you. I'm not asking you to forget the moments that left marks, I'm asking you to let me reframe them. Not with denial, but with truth. Not with suppression, but with perspective. You've been afraid to admit that some days still feel heavy. But I'm not intimidated by your honesty. I don't need you to pretend that nothing happened. I need you to understand that even when it happened, I never left. I was there when the betrayal cut deep. I was there when the loss made the air feel too heavy to breathe. I was there when the words pierced your identity. And I've been there through every moment you chose to get back up, wobbly, weary, but determined to keep going. That's what healing looks like. Not perfection, but progress. Not forgetting, but forgiving. Not numbing, but noticing and choosing peace anyway. Your memories may still knock, but they no longer have keys. They no longer get to control the narrative. And as long as I'm with you, you're not walking backward, you're walking through. So don't shame yourself when the emotion rises again. Don't panic when the tears come unexpectedly. That's not regression. That's release. That's your soul exhaling the parts it had to hold tightly for too long. And every time it happens, I'll be there whispering, "You're safe now. I've got you." You're not going through it again, you're just healing deeper. You've associated healing with forgetting because pain taught you that remembering is dangerous. But I want to teach you a new way. A holy way. A way that allows you to look back without living back. A way that honors what you survived without chaining you to who you were when it happened. You're not there anymore. And the fact that you feel enough to reflect proves just how far you've come. It's over for the belief that freedom means pretending you were never wounded. I'm giving you a new picture of healing now, one where your scars don't have to be hidden because they testify to my presence. One where your memory doesn't have to haunt you because I've redeemed even the darkest chapters. You don't have to forget to be free. You just have to trust that I'm still writing, still restoring, still turning pages you thought would define you forever. You are healing even now, even still, even when it feels messy. And I am proud of the way you've walked with me through it. No more rushing the process. No more judging the timeline. Just keep walking, hand in hand with me, and watch how I turn every past ache into future beauty, because nothing you've been through will ever be wasted in my hands. Let me gently enter the part of you that has been carrying strength like armor, not because you've always wanted to, but because you thought you had no other choice. I've seen the moments where you said I'm fine while your soul was screaming for someone to notice you weren't. I've watched you show up strong for others, while wondering in silence who would show up for you. You've learned how to be the steady one, the dependable one, the one who always holds it together even when your world was falling apart inside. But child, I never asked you to be unbreakable. I asked you to be mine. And being mine doesn't require constant composure, it requires constant communion. You've confused strength with suppression. You thought that being a pillar meant never bending. But even pillars lean when the weight gets heavy. You've carried burdens I never placed in your hands, simply because you didn't want to burden anyone else with your pain. You've held up walls for people who never asked you to, but you did it anyway, out of love, out of loyalty, out of a longing to protect. I honor your heart. I see your effort. But now I want to heal what's underneath. Because real strength isn't found in how long you can hold it all together, it's found in knowing when to hand it all over. You've mastered the art of pushing through, but I want to teach you the sacredness of letting go. Letting go of the need to have all the answers. Letting go of the image of invincibility. Letting go of the pressure to be everything for everyone. I never designed you to be their savior. I designed you to reflect me, and even I wept. Even I knelt in Gethsemane and said, "This is heavy." Even I cried out, "Let this cup pass from me." Strength isn't found in hiding your need, it's found in being honest with it. I want to be the place where you can collapse without shame. I want you to know what it feels like to lean on me without guilt. You don't have to be the strong one today. You just have to be the honest one. That's where healing begins. That's where true courage is formed, in the place where you're finally free to say, "I need help." You've spent so long supporting everyone else that you forgot how to receive support yourself. But I'm sending people into your life who will not be repelled by your vulnerability. People who will see your tears as sacred, not shameful. People who will hold your arms up when you've got nothing left. You don't need to be the rescuer in every room. You don't need to be the answer for every problem. You can be human here. You can be real here. You can exhale. There is nothing weak about asking for help. There is nothing wrong with needing rest. There is no failure in admitting fatigue. You are not less than because you're tired. You are still anointed, still chosen, still worthy of the mantle I placed on your life. But now, it's time to carry it differently. Not in your own strength, but in mine. Not in burnout, but in balance. Not in silence, but in surrender. It's over for the version of you that felt obligated to stay strong just to survive. I'm freeing you from the expectations that crushed your spirit. I'm removing the masks that kept you distant from true intimacy. I'm softening the places you hardened just to keep functioning. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to power through. You don't have to hold yourself together one more day out of fear that falling apart would be the end of everything. Falling apart in my presence is where restoration begins. So cry if you need to. Breathe deep. Fall into my arms. I got you. And I'm not letting go. Amen.